Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called Princess's Dangerous Brothers. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! This story begins with our young heroine, a cute white-haired girl, being dragged through dark streets in the middle of a snowy night. It so happens that her uncle, who had been taking care of her, is indebted to some rough criminals who are now beating him up in front of his niece, demanding their money. As he can't pay them back, one of the criminals threatens to cut off one of his fingers for each new day he's late on his payment. The girl steps in, trying to defend him, but the slimy leech offers her to them instead of the money. He tells them that they should take her, as she's worth more than what he owes due to her pretty face. Of course, the poor girl is terrified, begging him not to give her away and telling him she'll work harder to earn money. But the son of a bish doesn't care and just pushes her to them. The men start dragging her away, but she's a fighter. She bites one of their hands to release its grip, but the man, angered, pushes her onto the ground, injuring her ankle. Now unable to run away, the man she bit approaches her, wanting to hit her in retaliation. Luckily, a young and handsome magician appears, driving the criminals away from her by using his fire magic. Another handsome man also pops in, introducing himself and the other boy as her brothers. Lestia, the little girl, is quite confused at their sudden appearance in her life, as the only thing she knows about her parents was that her mother had been a prostitute who already died. She tells Joel and Lysian, the boys who claim to be her brothers, that they must be wrong, and Joel insists, telling her she's the younger sibling of the family, even calling her by her name. It also appears that Joel has the magical ability to control the wind, which he uses to dry off Lestia's clothes. Joel wants to embrace her, but he notices she flinches at his touch because her body is covered in bruises. Infuriated, Joel and Lysian question her on who did this to her, but she doesn't want to say anything. So Joel collects himself and accepts this, telling her they should go home to heal her now. That's when her good-for-nothing uncle appears, forcefully grabbing Lestia by her tiny wrist and telling the boys they can't take her as she's his niece. As if he cares about her, that prick. The boys ask him if he's her uncle, why she was being mistreated by the criminals in front of his house. And he tells him they were disciplining her because she's been naughty, fueling their fury towards him. Calmly, Joel takes charge of the situation by asking him what he'd done with the 1,000 gold coins of child support their father had given him 10 years ago to take care of her. But the drunk tells him 1,000 coins was not enough to raise her. Swiftly, Joel takes out another 1,000 gold coins and gives them to him, telling him not to ever come near Lestia again. He obviously accepts them. Now, they both ask her if she'll come with them, and she accepts. As they are leaving, the uncle interrupts them once more, asking who Lestia's father is to be so rich as to give him so much gold. With a cold, authoritative look, they tell him she's the daughter of the Duke of Verchester, surprising both Lestia and her uncle. It seems the Verchester is a clan so powerful everyone, regardless of their statutes, knows their name. They are a clan of magicians with powers passed on from generation to generation, so Lysian gives the uncle one last warning to stay away from her with his magic fire. While in the carriage heading to their mansion, Lestia is worried they'll hate her if she dirties the seat with her dirty dress. Poor child. She's clearly been through so much. Joel asks her what's wrong, and she marvels at how sweet they are to her, but also wonders why they didn't look for her before. Lysian gives her a newspaper article about their family tree, trying to give her context on why they came only now. However, Lestia breaks down crying because she's unable to read the words, apologizing to them and calling herself stupid. Immediately, Lysian tries to go off the carriage to fight her uncle for having abused her so much, but Joel stops him. Then, Joel tries calming her down, telling her it's not her fault, and explaining that they came to her now because they just found out about her existence, as their father, the former head of the family, recently passed. Now their older brother Gerard is going to inherit the dukedom. They arrive at the Verchester mansion, where Lestia and her brothers are welcomed by the head butler, Haylok. He doesn't show the friendliest attitude at first, questioning Lestia about her possession of magical abilities, and telling her that if she has Verchester blood, then she must be magical as well. Lestia is taken aback, as she's never been able to cast magic of any sort, even telling them that maybe she's not a Verchester after all. Lysian cuts her off, telling her that no matter if she can cast magic or not, she'll always be a Verchester. Joel then shows her a magic rock bracelet he's wearing, telling her that he needs to have it on to control his magical powers, or else he could die from them. Hence, Joel sweetly tells her that not having magical powers is actually best, throwing Halok a dirty look, after which Halok apologizes for his rudeness to Lestia. Joel then places Lestia in Lysian's arms, telling him to take good care of her while he goes looking for her third runaway brother. Lysian's a bit shocked, but awkwardly and lovingly takes her in. A maid named Dora then introduces herself to Lestia, telling her she'll be serving her from now on. Dora asks Lysian if he'll take her to the bathroom, causing him to turn red while explaining that he's carrying her because she sprained her ankle and hastily depositing her inside the bathroom. Once in the bathroom, Dora is shocked when she sees poor Lestia's beaten-up body as she helps her undress for the bath. Lestia covers herself again, remembering the words of her heinous uncle, telling her to say the bruises were caused by her falling if anyone asked. Hesitant, she tells Dora that she fell, but Dora quickly reassures her by telling her that she doesn't need to explain anything to her. Dora's extremely sweet, noticing Lestia likes flowers and giving her some scented soap to smell, all while encouraging her to express her desires and likes freely. Lestia enters the dining room where Lysian is waiting for her. He's instantly bewitched by her cuteness, remembering the time he first found out about her existence from their older brother after their father's funeral. According to Gerard, their father gave her away after finding out she's been born without magical abilities. And so now Gerard, being the new head of the family, feels responsible for her and ordered Joel, the second son, to go look for her. The third son, Martius, disappeared right after the funeral, finally free from his father's commands. And that's who Joel went looking for now. Lysian helps Lestia out with her food, as she can't understand anything about the dining etiquette and what utensils to use for what. He has a snarky attitude, but it's obvious he's full of love for her, telling her he'll always forgive her no matter what mistake she makes, reassuring her as she always looks scared to make the wrong move. Lestia is still convinced she's not a real Verchester, so she wonders if he'll forgive her for even that. In any case, Lysian is kindly cutting up the food for Lestia as she still doesn't know how to use the cutlery, excited to see her try all the new food laid before her. Once Lestia is full, he picks her up again and carries her to her new bedroom, even though she insists she can now walk on her own. There, Dora wishes her a good night's sleep and tells her to pull the rope next to the bed if she needs anything from her during the night, leaving Lestia and Lysian alone. Lysian asks her why she looks so hesitant, and Lestia asks him if she can use the bed. He tells her of course, and then asks her where she'd been sleeping before, and to his horror, she'd been sleeping on a haystack while her uncle slept on the bed. Lysian picks her up again and places her on the bed, telling her that if not, she wouldn't have gotten on it on her own accord. He asks her if she hates her uncle, and she appears to have mixed feelings about it. She concludes that she doesn't, as up until she was 5, before he started drinking, he treated her well. She's now 11 and wishes he quits drinking and lives a happy life. She's honestly so wholesome. Then, as she's afraid of the dark, Lysian creates magical light butterflies that fly around her room, illuminating it for the night. The staff seems to be very busy still with the aftermath of the Duke's funeral, and as they are working, they are gossiping about Lestia and if she really is the daughter of the late Duke. Dora hears them and quickly jumps in her defense, sternly ratifying Lestia's belonging in the Verchester family and sending everyone off to work. In the meantime, the kitchen staff seem to be very dedicated to preparing food Lestia will like. They honestly seem so sweet. Lestia finally wakes up and starts looking around her room, marveled that all that's there is for her to use. Dora comes in, reminding her to use the rope next to her bed if she needs her, and asking her as she woke up before she showed up. She brings her the breakfast the kitchen staff prepared for her so diligently, and Lestia is deeply enjoying her meal. She feels really grateful for everyone taking care of her, and being the sweet angel she is, she wants to show them her gratitude in some way. Thus, after breakfast and getting ready, Lysian is surprised to see Lestia outside the mansion with a basket of flowers and surrounded by staff, asking her what she's doing. Lysian takes a flower from Lestia, asking her what they're for. She apologizes, telling him they're paper flowers she made to show her gratitude towards everyone who's helping her. But Lysian seems bothered by her wanting to show gratitude, telling her that someone in her position doesn't need to do that. Dora interjects, taking the blame for not having stopped Lestia before, but Lestia defends her, reminding Lysian that he told her the night before that she could do whatever she wanted, and that it had been her decision to give out the flowers. She even tries taking the flowers he's holding from his hand, telling him she wanted to give it to him, but if he dislikes it, she'll just throw it away. Lysian quickly takes it back, blushing, wanting to keep it. Lestia then asks him what he's doing there, as he's supposed to be very busy, but he doesn't even know either. Dora then suggests they have tea together, and Lysian agrees, clearly unable to say no to Lestia. Lysian accompanies Lestia to the mansion's study room, where they'll have their tea, and she goes off to explore it while they wait for it to be ready. Lestia finds a book that's glowing, and she opens it. Surprising herself, she's able to read the words written on it, but they're in a different language. Immediately after she starts, the earth starts to shake, making everyone in the mansion think Martius, the third son and bearer of earth magic, had returned. Fearing Lestia might be afraid, Lysian goes to look for her and is surprised to see her reading that book, making her the interpreter. Lysian closes the book Lestia is reading, asking her how she's able to read that ancient book. Apparently, an interpreter is someone who can read the relics of ancient magic, as magic was born out of an ancient civilization that suddenly disappeared from unknown causes. After that, magic was only able to be passed down from blood, making lineage wizards, or, through words and spells, making magic researchers who can help ordinary people do magic through spells. Because of this, the interpretation of ancient books, which is extremely difficult, was only passed down through the imperial family of the Morcatium Empire, even though it is rumored that interpreters are naturally born with that ability. Lysian is now wondering whether the former Duke or his brother Gerard knows Lestia as an interpreter, knowing it would bring dire consequences if this fact became known to the outside world. They go to have tea, and Lestia asks Lysian if he's mad that she's read the book. He tells her not at all, but he also wants to teach her to read normal books as well as to write. So he offers to give her lessons every day, which she enthusiastically accepts. In the Imperial Palace, Gerard is attending a ball in his honor for having taken the dukedom. He's met by the Crown Prince Erichin, whom he knows from the Imperial Academy, and who seems to hold a huge grudge towards Gerard for always outperforming him. As they talk, Erichin asks Gerard about his siblings, finally mentioning Lestia, and shocking Gerard as he didn't know the Imperial family knew of her existence. Now, he's worried they might even know she's an interpreter. Gerard collects himself while Erichin tells him he wants to meet little Lestia, saying she must be beautiful like the other Verchesters. What a creep. He then goes on to talk about how the late Duke left many children as his legacy, telling Gerard that he must do the same in the name of loyalty to his kingdom, as the more witches there are, the better chances they have of winning the war. Gerard really resents Erichin, who's treating him like an animal, but then remembers a conversation he had with his father regarding the Imperial family. He had told him they had to be loyal to them no matter the cost, as some of his siblings need magic stones to keep their powers at bay, and the Imperial family is the only one who can procure them. Therefore, Gerard once again collects himself and replies to Erichin with a sly look in his eyes. After the ball, the prince seems to be having a temper tantrum in his room, upset by the look Gerard gave him. Still out of it, he's thinking of going to see Lestia soon, as him mentioning her had made Gerard visibly unsettled. In the Verchester mansion, it seems Lestia's already won everyone over, even grumpy old Halok. She's been making a tremendous effort to fit in, even asking the chef to show her how to use the cutlery. And Lysian worries that she might be overexerting herself. After he finishes his swordmanship practice, Lestia comes looking for Lysian, as she's been doing every day since he offered to teach her to read and write for their daily lesson. She's improving rapidly, and she's happy to notice that Lysian kept the paper flower she'd made him as a bookmark. They are so wholesome. The ground's shaking once more, and this time, it's really because Marty has finally returned. He storms into the study, looking for Lestia, but calling her Letty, telling her he's the cooler brother. In the meantime, Joel is bringing up a present he got for Lestia, showing her a huge pink rabbit doll which made him think of her. She's hesitant to take it, still unsure whether she's allowed such things, but Joel makes her laugh by joking that Lysian wouldn't appreciate the doll for himself, making her accept it. Lestia then asks Martius why he's calling her Liddy, and he tells her it's his nickname for her and proceeds to pick her up and spin her around in the air. At first, Lestia is having fun, but she quickly gets dizzy, asking Martius to put her down, but he won't budge until she calls him brother. Of course, she calls him that for the sake of being let go, but she feels bad for having called him brother before Joel, who'd asked her in the carriage while going to the Verchester estate for the first time. She immediately turns around and thanks Joel for the gift, calling him brother and making him become elated. Lysian quickly tells her she doesn't need to call him brother, but that she can just call him Lysian without any title adhered to that. Then, Lysian stands up and asks Joel to talk with him in private, telling him he has an important issue to talk about. Mardius tells Lestia he wants to play with her and that he'll play anything she wants. However, due to her harsh upbringing, aka her heinous uncle, she never played in her life and doesn't even know where to start. Realizing this, Mardius asks her what she's been doing in the mansion since she arrived, and she excitedly tells him Lysian's been teaching her how to read and write, also mentioning she's read a book and she's been walking around the mansion, but has never left it. Mardius is utterly dissatisfied with her response, telling her that he'll show her how to really enjoy life unlike her other brother, describing Gerard as a perfectionist, Joel as a good student, and Lysian as uninteresting. In the meantime, Lysian tells Joel that Lestia is an interpreter. He's surprised to hear that, thinking Gerard would have known if she's an interpreter. He remembers his childhood and how unhappy he was because his mother was often sick and left them to be raised by a nanny in the estate while she went south to the warmer climate to recuperate alone. He also barely saw his father as he was always busy, so the brothers only ever had each other. He also remembers how Lestia was born the same year his mother had died. But even though he felt bad for his mother as she barely received any attention from the Duke, her husband, he didn't blame Lestia, who he immediately noticed had had a harsh upbringing when he went looking for her. Back to the present, Joel tells Lysian that doesn't mean she's not their sister, so they should not probe that further until Gerard returns. Lysian and Joel then return to the study to find it empty. Mardius has taken Lestia out on a road trip, and they are in a carriage heading towards the nearest village. Mardius suggests they take a shortcut there, and then proceeds to use his magic to make the carriage go over a cliff, then lifting up ground for it to safely land and head right into the busy street of the village. Once there, Lestia looks worried for her brother, and she asks him if he's okay, as he used a lot of magic for the shortcut, and she'd heard that it was very dangerous to use magic. Mardius seems intrigued by her worry, as it's the first time any Verchester had expressed that for him. He reassures her that it's no problem for him to use magic, but I honestly don't buy this overly loving brother act, as we see the moment Joel came for him, telling him his sister was in the mansion, he seemed to think of her only as a new toy for him to play with. In any case, Lestia is excited as she's now able to read some of the signs of the shops around them, and Mardius hurries her into an accessory shop so she can buy things for herself. He starts picking out a lot of expensive things he wants to gift to her, but she asks him to please not get those expensive things for her. Her wishes almost come true, as Mardius didn't have money on him to buy them for her. But to her dismay, he gives the salesman one of his earrings and tells him to keep it as a guarantee he'll bring the money to him. After giving the salesman one of the magic gems he wears to contain his magic as insurance for the money, Mardius takes off with a worried Lestia to go earn the money. Obviously, being Mardius, he instantly thinks of going to get the money by playing games in a casino, taking Lestia along for the ride. He is doing quite well, multiplying his money by a lot and thanking Lestia, saying she's lucky. However, she looks extremely uncomfortable there, as she's worried he might lose everything in a hand and blame her for it. He tries to ease her on by telling her to play the next game, but she refuses, telling him she'd rather just watch him. With a lot of money now, Lestia asks Mardius if it wouldn't be wise to leave now without risking losing it all in another game, but he insists they play a last game of dice. Lestia is really nervous, and things get worse for her when Mardius tells her to throw the dice herself, knowing the only way they could win was if she got double sixes. Luckily for all, Lestia's dice gets the winning hand, and thus her anxiousness is relieved, feeling gleeful for having won and seeing Mardius so happy. Mardius then leaves her on a bar table alone while he goes to change the casino chips into money. Mardius is gleefully going back to the bar he left Lestia at while carrying a heavy bag of gold coins, excited to show them to her. However, as he approaches it, he notices Lestia is not where he'd left her, and so he immediately drops everything and starts looking for her. On the other hand, we see Lestia gagged and with her hands tied behind her back while being kidnapped by two strangers who seem to know who she is. They place her on the back of a carriage that's also carrying exotic birds, hiding her behind their cages. Of course, Lestia is crying, afraid of where they're taking her and what they'll do to her. However, she decides not to give in so easily and sees a nail on the carriage's wall, which she tries to use to cut herself free, but sadly, she fails in doing so. Right about then, her brother stopped the carriage she's in, demanding the drivers to let them take a look inside. It seems that right when Martius started looking for her in the casino, Joel and Lysian also arrived looking for the both of them. Upon realizing what was going on, Joel immediately sent out Verchester guards to look for Lestia, who discovered that the carriage had been the only one near the casino at the time of her disappearance. The men refused to let them take a look, telling them they are birds going to the Imperial Palace, and impeding their path could be considered treason. Lestia also couldn't call for them, as she's gagged and the birds are too loud. However, just as the carriage is starting again, she's able to use the nail to cut her gag off and calls out for her brothers. The moment the brothers hear Lestia's voice calling for them, all hell breaks loose. Martius uses his earth magic to send the carriage flying, opening its back door and revealing Lestia. Blinded by their anger, Martius and Joel start going off on the drivers with their magic powers. But Lysian, who's embracing and comforting Lestia, stops them before they kill them, telling them they need to use them for information on who's behind this. They already have an idea, given that both of them and their carriage are bearing the Imperial emblem. Thus, Martius and Joel get up close to the drivers, demanding to know who set them up for this and asking if the Imperial family had anything to do. Unfortunately, both of the men die suddenly in their arms right before one of them is about to open up about who sent them. They all return to the Verchester mansion now, Dora looking extremely worried about Lestia and throwing deadly glares at the brothers who'd put her in danger. She puts some healing cream on Lestia's cheek, as she'd cut it when cutting her gag off, and Martius promptly kneels beside Lestia, blaming himself for what happened. Lestia stops him from hurting his head against the sofa anymore and makes a joke that lightens up the mood. But then Dora throws everyone out of the room, telling them she has to check if Lestia's hurt anywhere else. Once outside, Joel asks Martius for a word. Joel's scolding Martius for having put Lestia in danger, telling him he didn't take her safety into account when going to that casino. At first, Martius tries defending himself, but after realizing that, unlike him, Lestia's only a little girl with no magical abilities, he realizes that leaving her alone in a strange place was not responsible at all, as she's the easiest target for anyone with a grudge against the Verchester family. So he admits his wrongdoings and apologizes. They start thinking about what they should do to keep Lestia safe from now on, and Halok informs the three brothers that usually noble families have escorts when going out of the mansion, knights specially trained to guard them. They think this is a great idea, and as Lysian usually trains his swordsmanship with the Verchester Knights, they decide to have him be the one to pick Lestia's escort. In order to do so, Lysian has gathered all of the Verchester Knights onto the training courtyard, where they are all speculating who will be the one to take on the honor of becoming the young lady's guard. Lysian appears at once and informs them that he'll be picking 3 of them based on their fighting and guarding skills and their loyalty, commanding them to start dueling against one another. In the meantime, Lestia receives an array of different cream sodas for her to try while in bed. Dora tells us that they were sent by Martius, who's trying to make up for her for not trying hers in the casino as she got kidnapped, and is trying to make up for it. In the Imperial Palace, a messenger informs the Crown Prince that their plan to kidnap Lestia failed. Honestly, it's no surprise he's the one behind this. Erichin is furious. Unable to control his anger, he's swinging his sword about, threatening to kill the guy who told him they'd failed in capturing Lestia. He demands to know why they haven't caught her yet, and the guy tells him that she hasn't left the Verchester mansion since their first attempt, and the security there is too tight for them to get in. Erichin clearly wants to have her badly, as he's about to kill the poor guy who's now begging for his life on his knees, but then stops, thinking of a better plan to kidnap Lestia. He orders the guy to use Lestia's filthy uncle to make her come out so they can take her. In the uncle's house, the guy, named Nari, is questioning that bag of dirt about Lestia, who's more than happy to tell him everything, and then he asks something different of him. In the Verchester mansion, Dora is tending to Lestia's wound and then prepares her breakfast. It looks like Lestia misses her brothers, as she hasn't seen them since the incident 2 days ago. She wants to ask them to have dinner with her, as eating together as a family isn't common amongst them, but she fears she'll just inconvenience them. Additionally, she's to meet with Lysian for her lessons later that day, so she plans to ask him then. Lestia is waiting for Lysian in the study when Lysian walks in, followed by 3 knights. She immediately recognizes the leader, Franker, and greets him warmly. Lysian then informs her that they're to be her knights from now on, who will stay by her side and protect her. All 3 of them start making their oath of allegiance to her, kneeling and asking her to accept them. Even though she hesitates at first, she ends up accepting them. The other 2 introduce themselves as Elliot and Yuel. Lysian and Lestia are walking around the study, trying to pick a book for her to read. However, Lestia is really uncomfortable by having the knights following her around, particularly because she fears she'll make a mistake in front of them and they'll think badly of her or the Verchester name. Poor sweetie. She's really been traumatized by that scumbag of an uncle. Noticing this, Lysian orders the knights to leave and only come when necessary. Lysian is then brainstorming who might have been responsible for the attempted kidnapping of Lestia, following the clue that the drivers died out of nowhere by the use of someone else's magic, as if wanting to silence them. He thinks of all the houses who have wizards, but none of them have the magical ability that matches the type of spell used to kill the drivers. Thus, all arrows are still pointing at the Imperial family, as they have monopolized the use of magic from ancient books, and are the only ones able to exert it. There used to be an independent research group of magicians who called themselves the Heirs of Truth, but they were exterminated by the Imperial family 200 years ago when they rose to power. Lestia interrupts his thoughts by asking him something about the book she's reading, and noticing how fast she's picking up on everything, Lysian starts thinking about getting her a good tutor that might be able to teach her more than he can. Lestia then asks Lysian for permission to read the magic book, surprising him a bit, but he agrees to let her read it anyway, reminding her not to read it aloud as she might activate the spells. Then, Lestia shyly asks him if he can have dinner with her, and he obviously accepts. Right about then, Halok comes into the study to announce that there's a visitor for Lestia, and you guessed it, it's none other than her filthy uncle. Lestia starts quivering right after hearing her uncle is there, and with an ice-cold look, Lysian tells Halok to send him away. Nonetheless, Halok tells him that he won't budge, as he says there's a memento that was left to Lestia by her late mother that he must give her personally. Lestia seems a bit curious, but still very uncomfortable, so Lysian insists they take him away. Regardless, Lestia then tells Lysian she wants to meet him in person, as she wants to tell him directly to never come see her again. Thus, Lestia is accompanied by Lysian and her knights to go meet her uncle in a separate room. He turns to meet them, smiling like a maniac, and starts approaching Lestia as if he were her best friend. She's physically uncomfortable, remembering all the abuse she suffered by his hands while trembling and taking a step back from him. He tries taking a lock of her hair, but Lysian sharply stops him, looking at him with a deadly glare. Now collected, Lestia thanks Lysian for protecting her and tells him she's okay, calming him down. Firmly, Lestia then faces her uncle and tells him not to come see her again, telling him she knows he's lying about the memento as he would have already sold it if it was true. He tries pushing the box onto her, but Lestia won't take it, which in turn angers him, causing him to raise his voice at her. The knights point their swords at him and start dragging him away, when he opens up the box, releasing a purple magical smoke. Lysian throws Lestia away from the magic smoke, giving her to Fangirl and urging him to take her with him and run away from there as the smoke completely engulfs him. Whatever the smoke is, it causes Lysian's magical stone to shatter, making his magical abilities run wild and engulfing him in a blazing fire. Lestia is extremely distressed, not wanting to leave her brother behind, but Fangirl takes her away from there and makes everyone in the mansion evacuate as Lysian's flames start devouring the building. Once outside, Lestia tells the staff that they need to give Lysian another magic stone ASAP, as his broke, and they are all well aware of the dire consequences that may have, as it is said the former Duke died because of being engulfed by his own magic as well. Halok appears to have an extra ring, but unfortunately, they don't know how they can safely deliver it to Lysian, as the whole wing of the mansion is starting to become engulfed in flames and none of the magical brothers are there. Lestia then has an idea on how she can get magic. She thinks of using a spell from one of the books in the study to give the ring to Lysian, so she storms off into the study. However, just as she's about to grab the magic book she needs, Elliot grabs her from behind. Luckily, Elliot's not there to try to stop Lestia, but rather to help her, picking her up so she can reach the book she needs. Once outside, Lestia asks Halok to give her the magic ring so she can take it to Lysian, but he refuses to do so, telling her it's too dangerous for her in there. She insists, telling him she has to save Lysian, but he's adamant, and even the knights start holding her back and telling her that if she gets injured going there, all of Lysian's efforts to protect her would have been in vain. She's fierce though, resenting the knights for having sworn their allegiance to her, but not supporting her now, and telling Halok she'll prove to them she can get Lysian safely. Thus, Lestia starts reading a spell from the book, surrounding herself in magic and gaining everyone's shock. Halok clearly recognizes the magic she's using does not align with the other Verchester's magic, but he smiles, thinking that she truly completes them. Therefore, he gives her the ring and she promptly starts running into the burning mansion in search for Lysion. Inside, Lysion is agonizing on the floor, completely exhausted now. He never thought this would be the way he'd die, and only wishes to be able to see Lestia once more before going. To his luck, he hears Lestia's voice calling for him as she appears around the corner, running towards him with a protective magic shield around her. Lysion, however, thinks that it's just a hallucination and smiles, thankful to see her figure again, but ultimately giving in to his exhaustion when a chandelier breaks off from the ceiling right above him. Lestia runs towards Lysion to protect him from the falling chandelier, and luckily, her magic shield is enough for the both of them. Lysion wakes up and is shocked to see Lestia was not a fragment of his imagination, but is actually there, asking her how she got in and scorning the knights for having let her put herself in danger like this. However, Lestia is firm, reminding him that he told her she could do whatever she wanted and she'd always choose to help Lysion, no matter the danger. Defeated, Lysion is helped out of the mansion by Lestia. Just then, it starts to rain, but Lysion notices it's no ordinary rain, and they are met by Gerard, the older brother, who only coldly greets Lestia. Once everyone's outside and the fire's out, Gerard asks Haylock to tell him about the whole situation. After hearing everything, he asks about Lestia's uncle's whereabouts, but it seems that in the chaos of the fire, he ran away. Lestia feels awful, thinking all of this is her fault because of her uncle. Gerard then approaches her with a quite intimidating manner, telling her he's not merciful towards those who try to hurt his family, but just this once, he'll make an exception. Therefore, he asks Lestia what she wants him to do about her uncle. Surprisingly, Lestia replies that he should be punished for what he's done. Gerard sends out Lestia's knights to go capture her uncle, who's running in the woods of the Verchester's estate, trying to get as far away from there as possible. The imbecile thinks he's actually got away with it, remembering all the money Erichin's guy had promised him for opening the box near Lestia. Apparently, the purple smoke is a magical augmentation spell, so that probably explains why it broke Lysion's stone. Unfortunately for the scoundrel, the knights catch up to him and take him for questioning to the Verchester mansion. There, Lysion and Gerard are sitting while Lestia questions her uncle, who's kneeling on the floor. She asks him what the box contained, but he just ignores her and drags himself in front of the brothers, begging for their mercy and telling them not to trust Lestia. Obviously, Lysion jumps out to defend Lestia, but Gerard stops him, implying that this is Lestia's battle to fight. So Lestia continues her interrogation tactics, threatening her uncle with torture by the hands of the knights if he doesn't tell them the truth. Franker grabs the uncle by his collar, hitting him around while demanding to know what was inside the box. At first, he continues lying, but being the scared insect he is, finally gives in. However, as soon as he opens his mouth to spill the beans, he dies the same way the drivers of that carriage had died. Lysion hurries to cover Lestia's eyes so she's not traumatized by his horrible death. But I mean, it's kinda too late for that now. After that morbid scene, Gerard gets up and approaches Lestia, placing his hand on her shoulder while welcoming her to the Verchester family. I don't know why, but I kinda found that timing hilarious. Excuse me. They all then go stay at another Verchester mansion outside the capital, as the other one has to be repaired, and Joel and Martius finally appear. They first see Lysion, and Martius kinda implies that he blames Lysion for the partial destruction of the other mansion. Gerard then appears, defending Lysion by questioning Martius about having taken Lestia to a casino. Martius is annoyed at this, fighting Gerard by telling him Lestia also deserves fun, and also reprimanding Gerard for having had Lestia question and use knights to torture her own uncle, telling him he'll turn her into a monster. Gerard stands by his actions, and Martius storms off angered. Nonetheless, Joel also expresses his dissatisfaction towards Gerard's actions, but Gerard is firm. Later, the brothers, except for Martius, meet to discuss possible suspects for the constant attacks towards Lestia. Apparently, they already know the spell used to kill her uncle, and the drivers belong to the imperial family, and added that the carriage had birds belonging to the crown prince. Joel and Lysion seem pretty convinced he's behind this. Notwithstanding, Gerard seems more cautious than them, telling them it's only speculation. Meanwhile, Martius is heading towards Lestia's room, wanting to see how she's doing, but stalling at her door. He's intercepted by Lysion, who asks him why he's not going in there. He tells him that he feels he's a bad older brother to Lestia, but after some words of encouragement from Lysion, he finally goes in to see her. Lysion and Martius find Lestia hugging her teddy on her bed, with a very conflicted look on her face. As soon as he sees this, Martius goes over to her bed and hugs her tightly, wanting to comfort her. Lestia expresses how she feels it's her fault the house burnt down and all, as it all happened because of her uncle. Martius assures her she has no blame in it, but she still feels awful. Not only because of the fire, but also because of her uncle turning into dust like he did. She did want to make him pay, but she never intended for that to happen to him. It all seems to have been in an effort for her to finally feel like a true Verchester, but she's not happy with the outcome at all. Martius keeps consoling her, and after noticing the scar she has on her face from when she cut off the gag her kidnappers had tied on her mouth, he feels a pang of guilt and starts apologizing to her profusely. In the end, it's Lestia who's comforting Martius, hugging him back and telling him he's a great brother to her, being the first one to go comfort her and hug her since the incident. Martius is finally won over by Lestia, touched by her care for him and her warmth. Now, Martius is determined to work harder to protect Lestia. Right then, Dora comes in with a cart full of food ready to eat. Lestia is surprised to see it all already prepared for them, and obviously, it was Lysian's doing, who ordered the staff to prepare it as soon as Martius entered the room. Lestia doesn't seem to have that much of an appetite, but she can't refuse Martius's charm when he asks her to have dinner with them. As the three of them sit down, Joel also appears and they end up having dinner all together, fulfilling Lestia's wish. However, Lestia asks if Gerard would like to join them. Gently, they tell her that the table is for 4, so he wouldn't fit, clearly trying to imply that he won't show up without letting her down too much. Gotta love how they all care for her. It has been decided that Lestia will be moved to their territory up in the northwest, away from Irichen's clasps. She's a bit nervous about it, as it's the first time she's ever been out of the capital. But luckily, her brothers are there to look after her. Martius and Lysian will go up with her, and as Joel is on vacation now, he will also accompany her for now. Lestia then asks Martius if Gerard will be going with them to the family territory, but he doesn't seem to know. Lysian pops up and tells him Gerard will be going. Joel also appears, suggesting to Lestia they go for a morning walk. They all get super excited, wanting to show her the pond and inviting her for breakfast there. Thus, they head off for their walk. As they are exiting the mansion, Lestia comes across Gerard. She's immediately nervous, shaking and trying her best to courtfully greet him. She doesn't even address him by his name, bowing and calling him Duke. However, Gerard doesn't even meet her gaze. He only walks past her, ordering Halok to get an etiquette tutor for her. Lestia is devastated, thinking Gerard only sees her flaws, and Martius is even more annoyed at him. He tells her not to worry, as Gerard's a closed-off person, which in turn seems to tick something off in him, making him turn around to face them. Before he can say anything, Joel asks him where he's heading so early in the morning, given that he was supposed to go to the family estate with them. Apparently, the Crown Prince has invited him to have breakfast together, and Gerard wants to go because, even though it's only speculation that he's behind those attacks towards Lestia, he wants to issue a warning. It seems that Erichen's plan with the purple smoke was to find out if Lestia had any magical abilities or not. If she did, then the Verchesters would be forced to ask the Imperial family for a magical stone for her. As we know, his plan went sideways. Gerard arrives at the Imperial Palace and the Crown Prince is waiting for him in a gazebo. Gerard first annoys him by calling him Sir, and then by brushing off the incident with their mansion burning down, saying it's just a building. Seems like the Crown Prince is trying his hardest to press Gerard's buttons, but it's not working for now. However, as soon as Gerard sits down on the table, he notices the cage Erichen has prepared for Lestia. Upon seeing this, Erichen adds that it was meant for a parrot, but there was a road accident that caused it not to be delivered. He adds nonetheless that it won't be long until he captures it and locks it up. Obviously, Gerard knows he's referring to no parrot, but rather to Lestia. This causes him to become enraged, wilting the flowers near him with his magic. Erichen is shocked to see this, demanding Gerard explains himself. However, he plays it off cool, upsetting the prince even more when saying that the Verchesters feel responsible for the incident with the parrot, so they'll gift him a parrot and a new garden. Gerard then gets up and looms over Erichen, who's looking at him with a terrified look on his face. Gerard yanks off a necklace and places it before Erichen, telling him he can't seem to control his magic today, while making Erichen drown on the inside. As he walks away, Gerard stops his magic. Lestia is in the carriage with her brothers while heading up to their estate. She's fascinated by all the new scenery while having a great time with her brothers. Lestia notices Lysian staring at her, and startled, he tells her that their mansion is on a cliff overlooking the sea, so she can admire the sea better from there. Mardius is all excited as well, telling her that in the summer, he'll take her to play at the beach. However, Joel and Lestia tell him they'll go with them to watch over him as they don't trust him with her at all. Of course, this is all said in a very playful manner. Mardius protests, telling Lestia that she's the only one who's on his side, and she just laughs. They've arrived at a dock, and it seems they have to get on a boat to get all the way to their mansion. Mardius takes her by the hand and drags her out of the carriage, unable to contain his emotion at showing her the boats. Joel then tells Lestia to guess which boat they're going to be boarding, and of course, it's the biggest one. She's a bit frightened at first, as it's her first time seeing the ocean and being on a boat, but then she smiles widely, excited to be experiencing all these new things. Mardius asks her if she feels free on the boat, and she smiles, agreeing. She then notices Joel and Lestia talking to Halok on the boat, Lestia wearing his cape. Lestia wonders why he always wears it while going out, thinking it's a shame that he covers his beautiful amber eyes all the time. Lestia then turns around and they make eye contact, making her turn red like a tomato. Mardius notices this and takes her in for a hug, jealous to see her get like that from Lesia's sight. Then they see Gerard's carriage arriving at the dock as well. Lestia tells Mardius she has to go greet the Duke, but he just holds her back with a strained smile, telling her she doesn't have to force herself to greet him again. It's clear he's not on good terms with Gerard. However, Gerard approaches them, greeting Lestia himself, but calling her an annoying thing. I honestly think it's his awkward way of showing affection, but of course, it's not nice of him, and Lestia interpreted it as if she had done something wrong herself. Mardius starts defending her, telling Gerard not to say anything if he's just looking to make Lestia feel bad. They then start arguing, and Lestia asks Mardius to stop defending her, not wanting to see them fighting. Upon noticing the situation, Lestia picks Lestia up and takes her away from there. She asks him to put her down, as she thinks she has to go back to apologize to the Duke, as she thinks she did something to anger him. Lestia reassures her that Gerard's not angry at all, as it would be visible in the water all around them, if not, as their emotions often show through their magical abilities. Lestia then brings her to her chambers, laying her on her bed and telling her that they have a half-day-long voyage to their mansion. He also adds jokingly that she should tell him if anyone annoys her, so he can blast them with his fire. Obviously, Lestia can't tell it's a joke, so she gets really worried, making Lestia laugh. Lestia then thanks her for having saved him back then by taking the ring to him, but tells her with a stern look to never do anything so dangerous for him again, as there's no reason to risk her own life for him. This clearly angers Lestia, who tells him that if anything like that happened to him again, she'd go rescue him without even thinking about it. He then calls her stubborn, but she gets angrier, telling him it's only natural for her to want to save him as he's important to her. He asks her if that's true, and she says it's right, as they're both Verchesters, so they must protect one another. This seems to tick something off in Lestia, telling her that she shouldn't put herself in those situations for him anymore, but adding that she can for her other brothers. Lastly, before going away, he tells her not to put a ring on a man's finger so carelessly in the future. Okay. Outside, Mardius is angry at himself for having gotten angry at Gerard again, but in front of Lestia. He fears she'll become scared of him being angry at her. He's so dramatic, it's sort of endearing. Joel then asks Gerard why he called Lestia annoying, and he says it's because she keeps calling him Duke, even when in private. Joel stifles a laugh, finally realizing why he's so annoyed. He asks him if he'd like to be called older brother, but he just tells him that he doesn't want her to be calling him Duke until the etiquette teacher comes. Joel tells him this isn't the best way to approach Lestia, as he ought to be friendly to her first so she can open up to him. Joel also notes that Gerard seems to be far harsher on Lestia than on Lestia regarding politeness and proper sibling etiquette. Back in the prince's palace, he's taking his anger out on a subordinate, who's begging for his life on the floor. A butler comes between them, excusing the boy and telling Erichin he didn't know the subject. Luckily for the butler, the Emperor is looking for Erichin, so he stops his hand mid-swing, collecting himself. The Emperor seems to be bedridden, and Erichin kneels beside him so as to greet him. The Emperor tells him he knows that he had breakfast with Gerard that morning, telling him he'd instructed him to get close to Gerard to be able to tame him. However, he knows his palace was left a mess after Gerard's visit. Erichin tries to excuse himself, saying he intentionally asked Gerard to use his magic, but the Emperor is having none of that. He places his hand so that Erichin approaches him, and then slaps him hard across the face. He then scolds Erichin for trying to lie to him, and with his tail between his legs, Erichin apologizes. The Emperor then goes on to talk about the late Crown Princess, Roxanne, who died 10 years ago. She was favored by both the Emperor and the Empress and would have become the heir of the throne if she hadn't died. Naturally, being the only child left, Erichin was titled Crown Prince after her death, but the Emperor was never satisfied with him. As he's leaving the Emperor's room, Erichin orders his butler to make Lestia's cage larger, now determined to capture her. The Verchesters have finally arrived at the Duke's mansion. Martius doesn't seem to like it at all, and in the boat when he went to Lestia's room to apologize for having gotten angry, he talked bad of the mansion, calling it boring. However, once there, Lestia is captivated by it, saying it looks straight out of a fairy tale. Martius is teasing Lestia about the mansion being haunted, pointing at some armor that's in the hallway, saying that once, when he was younger, he heard it move. Lestia is terrified, believing every word he says until Joel scolds Martius for teasing her like that. Martius just laughs, saying she looks so cute. Joel then warns Lestia about being careful while walking around the castle, as it's so big she might easily get lost. Halok then appears, asking them if they want their dinner to be served in their rooms as usual. Martius tells him to prepare it in the dining room so that he can have dinner with Lestia, and Joel joins in as well. Lysian seems far colder than before though, not even meeting her gaze and asking Halok to prepare his dinner in his bedroom. As they walk around the mansion, they come across a magic lamp and a portrait of the boy's mother with young Gerard, Joel, and Martius. Lestia asks about the lady in the picture, and Joel tells her it's their mother who passed away a long time ago. Martius then asks Lestia to tell Joel and him apart from the picture, and she guesses correctly based on their eye colors. Then, with a sad face, she says how she wishes to have bright eyes like her brothers. But Martius just explains that the colors are because they show the magician's magic. Then, Joel compliments her silver eyes, telling her they are like trays that can carry all the magic as she's an interpreter. Lestia is able to feel her brother's magical powers, while remembering that the Verchester's coat of arms has 4 gems with the colors of the Verchester's magical attributes as well. Thus, she still feels bad for her gray eyes, but Martius consoles her, telling her eyes are beautiful and squeezing her cheeks to make her laugh. Then, he suggests they redraw their family portrait now that Lestia has arrived, and Joel agrees it's a good idea. They continue talking about how they also want to fill up the mansion's walls with portraits of her, making her cutely uncomfortable. As they head to dinner, Lestia notices how in the portrait with their mother, Lysian is missing, as well as the former Duke. As they enter the dining hall, they notice Gerard sitting on the head of the table. Joel marvels at this, reminiscing how he hasn't had a meal with his brothers since they were children, and noticing how strong of an influence on their family Lestia is. Lestia is wondering about Lysian, but Halok informs her that he will have his dinner in his room. Moreover, Lestia is a bit nervous about dining with Gerard, but she feels more confident because she's practiced a lot. They begin eating, and Gerard comments how he's surprised her dining etiquette is not so bad, to which she proudly responds that Halok taught her. However, he adds that it's not enough. Martius jumps out to defend Lestia, telling Gerard to be more considerate of her and her efforts rather than always criticizing her. Surprisingly, Lestia stops Martius and defends Gerard's comment, saying that it was meant to encourage her to adjust better to the Verchester name. She says she knows she's still lacking, but she wants to try her hardest to be someone who deserves the name and the loyalty of the 3 knights who swore their allegiance to her. Joel and Martius seem surprised at her words, and Gerard just smiles at her, telling her he'll get her a tutor to help her out. She thanks him, calling him Duke once again, but he corrects her, asking to be called brother. She blushes hard, and Gerard asks her directly if she thinks she's not his sister, and she doesn't answer. Joel then reminds Gerard that he never told her the story about her parents, and Gerard agrees it would be best for her to know it so her doubts are gone. Gerard tells Lestia she's the daughter of their father and that her mother was a courtesan. Not knowing what that is, she asks Gerard, who plainly says that the high-end prostitute. Gosh, subtlety clearly isn't his strong suit. Martius jumps out, telling him they are words too strong for an 11-year-old girl, but Gerard says it's best for her to know the whole truth. After seeing Lestia, Martius calms down and Gerard continues. Her mother died shortly after giving birth to her, and as Lestia showed no magical abilities, the former Duke gave her to her uncle after paying a sum of money for child support. Gerard then stands, telling Lestia he thinks his father was wrong in abandoning her. Noticing she has a lot of questions, Gerard tells her to go ahead and ask anything she wants. Lestia is completely honest then, showing she's concerned about not being a Verchester because she has no magical attributes, and her mother was a prostitute, so she's doubtful she has the blood of the previous Duke. Gerard then approaches her and pokes her head, saying she has complex thoughts, and telling her he'll show her she's a Verchester in a way more credible than words, so she should just wait. He then leaves, leaving a really confused Lestia behind. Martius seems to be very embarrassed, and Joel explains that Gerard will probably call a professor at their academy, Katrina Lockbest, who's a wizard that possesses eyes that can see truth. Martius is embarrassed because anytime he did something wrong in the academy, she was able to see through his lies right away. Days pass, and Lestia's become very busy with all the tutoring Gerard got for her. In the morning she studies, then in the afternoon she has manners tutoring, and at night, swordsmanship and martial arts classes. She seems to be loving it though, and is super excited to be learning so much new stuff. Martius complains, telling her they can't play anymore because Gerard has her studying all day long, but she tells him she's finding it all to be very fun. Joel comes in, jokingly telling Lestia not to play with Martius like that. He brings sweets Lestia can munch on while studying, telling her to try her best. Martius complains, telling him he's trying to win her over with sweets. Joel then notices a very difficult book on Lestia's table and asks her if she's reading that already. It seems that's a book Lysion was reading while teaching Lestia, and she's put it as a goal to be able to read it. Joel smiles, telling Lestia that she can always ask him questions if she needs help. She gets super excited and tells him they should study together, and Joel accepts as he has to prepare things in advance for the next semester. Martius feels left out, but Lestia just tells him to study with them as well, as it would be fun, and he could also study ahead for the semester. Joel is stifling a laugh as he tells Lestia Martius dropped out a year ago, making Lestia show an obvious face of disappointment. Martius asks if she thinks he's pathetic, and she doesn't deny so, asking him why he dropped out. He tells her he wanted to enjoy life, but he will go back, which gets Lestia excited, and she insists they study together then. Finally, Martius agrees to study with her, obviously only wanting to spend time with her, making Joel laugh out loud. Haylock then informs the Duke that Martius is studying with Joel and Lestia in the library, and he says he'll rejoin the academy, and they share a look of disbelief. Anyhow, Gerard suggests it's time they check on Martius's health. In the meantime, Lysion is colder than ever, not talking to Lestia and turning her away when she went to ask him for help in her studies. Lestia gets the idea to write a letter to Lysion to show him how much her writing has improved and to gain his attention, and she'll ask Dora to deliver it to him. However, the reply she got from him was Dora telling her Lysion wants her to know he's too busy, which obviously disappoints her. She notices how after their conversation in the sailboat, Lysion seems to be avoiding her, and the etiquette tutor told her it's wrong to visit someone without their consent. She then gets another idea, and she asks one of her knights if Lysion is going to swordsmanship training in the mornings as usual, thinking maybe she can meet him by chance. The knight tells her he is, but he's going during early dawn. Thus, next morning, Lestia wakes up before dawn to go look for Lysion in the training court. It's really cold, and she's very frightened as she's walking around the dark hallways, remembering the ghost story Martius had told her. She's getting more and more anxious as she feels steps coming towards her, and she falls down in fear when a hand touches her shoulder. Luckily, it's Lysion. He asks her what she's doing out so early, asking her if she came looking for him, but she lies to his face in an obvious manner, telling him she wanted to go for a walk. He knows she's lying, but he just tells her to go back to her room by following one of his magic butterflies. As Lestia follows the butterfly that night, she accidentally runs into Lysion. She notices that he seems very busy these days as she initiates small conversations with him. He's wearing a robe, so she figures that he's probably going to his swordsmanship training. Lysion tries to brush her off, however, Lestia insists that she wants to talk to him. She even sent him a letter before, but he hasn't responded yet. Left with no choice, she decides to wait for him until he is not busy anymore. Oh, Lysion, how do you have the heart to ignore such cuteness? He promises to get back to her with a reply later that night, which makes her quite happy. He recalls that even though he acts cold towards her, he felt fondness when he read the letter she sent him. In the letter, Lestia stated that she used to study in the library with Joel and Matthias. Moreover, she wants Lysion to be with their other siblings and hopes that she could join him while reading, knowing that he likes to read books. Whatever his response is, Lestia is looking forward to replying to the letter she sent. Originally, Lysion wants to distance himself from Lestia, but the girl cleverly managed to find a way to stay by his side. It is better to move away slowly than to move away all at once. Therefore, he decides that sending a reply to the letter would make it better. Meanwhile, in the capital, Lysion cannot go out that much. But now that he is in the duchy, he comes to the realization that it feels nice for him not to have to do the same thing there. Shortly, he checks his mana neutralization stone and feels something unusual is going on. It seems like he is meeting someone. Lysion proceeds to meet with someone to follow up on his order. Per his request, all available information on the inheritors of truth is gathered. Although it has been quite some time since the more catacomb imperial family brought about their downfall, their traces still remain. With that information, he is now satisfied after getting what he wants. He just needs to give the all-clear signal now that the preparations are practically finished. Meanwhile, Lestia is waiting for Lysion to arrive. He has promised her that he will come that night, but he is taking too long. However, he is not someone who makes empty promises, so she keeps on waiting. Remembering that the window gives a clear view of the road outside the castle, she peeks out hoping to catch a glimpse of Lysion. But at that moment, she sees no one out there. Shortly, she realizes that the ocean view can be seen from the window as well, which is even more beautiful at night. But then she sees a person lying unconscious on the beach. The person is wearing a robe, so Lestia instantly assumes that it's Lysion. Panicked, she immediately rushes to go to him. Oh no, what happened? Is it really Lysion? On the way to the beach, she bumps into some knights, so she explains to them what she saw. She thinks that Lysion's mana neutralization stone broke again. At that moment, she doesn't care about anything anymore. Lestia just wants to go check on Lysion, who collapsed on the beach. Or so she thinks. While running hurriedly, someone grabs her arm. It's actually him! Whew, thank God he's okay! Fortunately, he is back in the castle safely, which relieves her but also confuses her at the same time. He is aware that she is already waiting for him, but after seeing her running around, he thinks that she's being too nosy. She then explains what happened. Well, Lysion is not that weak to collapse easily. However, for Lestia, she hasn't stopped worrying about him, especially since the fire. She also notes that his mana neutralization stone looks fine at the moment, so she is now reassured. Momentarily, they proceed to check on the person who collapsed on the beach. When they arrive, they immediately help the person get up and ask for details about her. The girl who collapsed explains that her teleportation magic went awry and she ended up somewhere strange. Ooh, who can this mysterious person be? As Lestia looks into the lady's eyes, she can sense magic in them, so she assumes that she might be a sorcerer. The girl thinks that she teleported somewhere strange, but she is actually in the right place. She then asks Lestia and Lysion to bring her to the Duke's estate. She claims that if they mention Katrina Rookbest, which is the lady's name, then the Duke will give them a hefty sum of gold coins. When Lestia hears the lady's name, it seems familiar to her. Shortly, she remembers that her brother, Matthias's professor from the academy, is the same name as the lady. Moreover, she is the same person who was invited by the Duke to come to their estate. Meanwhile, Katrina notices Lysion's mysterious yet familiar mana. Her eyes turn purple as she tries to get some information about him because she does not have any clue about his identity. She tries to approach the young lord, but Lysion whisks himself away from her, causing her to fall to the sand once again. Someone clearly needs an attitude adjustment. He tells her that she will get some answers about his identity later on. However, Lestia mentions his name out loud unconsciously. With that, Katrina finds out his real name and now knows that he is the fourth son of the Verchester family. Not long after, the Duke arrives in the middle of their conversation. After seeing him, Lestia immediately apologizes to the Duke for making him worry. She is not yet done speaking, however, Katrina cuts her off by running towards Gerard, hugging him tightly. She explains to him that she used teleportation magic earlier. Because Gerard called her before, she had to get to him as quickly as possible. Admittedly, the magic she just used is risky and dangerous, but she's willing to do it as long as it's for the Duke. Is she in love with him or something? They do make quite the pair, though. Katrina is excited to faithfully do whatever his order is. She only wants to satisfy him. With that, she orders Lestia to look closely into her eyes in order to know the truth regarding anything that she is curious about. She can ask her any question, and her magical eyes will give her an answer. If her eyes turn green at her question, that means the answer is yes. However, if the answer is no, her eyes will turn red. It is the power of the Rookbest family's magical eyes. Momentarily, Lestia asks if she is actually a princess who inherited Verchester's blood. She then nervously looks into Katrina's eyes while waiting for an answer. It feels like she's being swallowed by a dark ocean while staring at it. When her eyes turn green, Lestia refuses to believe it at first, but Katrina then assures her instantly. Her magical eyes do not lie, which is why she should not worry about it anymore. Not long after, the young Verchester starts crying. She seems to be in shock, so Katrina tells Gerard to cheer his little sister up. Back inside the palace, the adults are left alone in the Duke's office. Katrina keeps on talking while Gerard is busy with his work. When she says that she finds Lestia very cute, a smile on his face appears. Gerard always has a poker face until he hears compliments about his siblings. Aw, such a softie. Later on, Katrina mentions that the Crown Prince is quite angry with Gerard. With that, his expression suddenly changed completely from when she was talking about his sister. It seems like there's been a conflict regarding some kind of evidence, which explains his annoyed reaction. Gerard Verchester is a war hero with a notorious reputation for being merciless and cold toward foes. Thanks to that, he is known as the Blue-Eyed Grim Reaper. However, the thing is that even his cruel side is charming to Katrina. Her clear vision of Gerard makes her want to stay close to him always. Shortly, she mentions Lestia, who was with Lestia earlier. She notices something strange about him, which is why she concludes that there must be a reason why the Duke has been hiding him away. I wonder what the reason is. Earlier, Katrina wasn't able to get a proper read on him because of his mysterious mana. Before she could say anything more about him, Gerard's glare stopped her. She then thinks about how lenient he is because she expected him to come for her life after figuring out his brother's identity. She wonders if the reason is because she is useful or if he happens to feel the same way as her. Momentarily, she comes near him and tries to initiate a kiss, which he lets on. Surprisingly, he is the only one who takes advantage of her like this. I can now confirm that she is in love with him. Woo! Katrina is so lucky! The next day, Katrina formally introduces herself to Lestia. Starting that day, she will be teaching her how to use grimoires. To think that Gerard is leaving her with his sister's education in exchange for one kiss is something else. Moreover, Lestia is supposed to be the first interpreter in 200 years. Katrina concludes that maybe the reason she is unable to use attribute magic is because she was born as an interpreter. If that's the case, her ability to interpret grimoires might have been inherited through blood, which is entirely possible since sorcerer families used to marry one another a long time ago. However, in those cases, children would only inherit one parent's magic. Katrina is still engrossed in Lestia's situation, but is interrupted shortly when she notices her. Speaking of reading the flow of magic, Lestia admits that she is sort of able to do it. However, the truth is that it hasn't been long since she began reading the flow of magic. In other words, she only began sensing mana after reading grimoires. Katrina is lost in thought as she thinks about Lestia's ability, which can only be awoken by reading a grimoire. She then assumes that her mother might not have been an ordinary courtesan. She notices that Lestia is fretting, so she assures her that being able to read mana now is what's important. Lucky for her, it is going to help her immensely as she continues to learn more about grimoires. There is nothing to be worried about since Katrina will teach her everything. Going forward to this lesson, she asks Lestia to interpret the different kinds of books that she is showing her. Her excitement upon seeing the grimoires is interesting. In truth, the thick grimoires are much more complex compared to others. The young lady's excitement will probably disappear when she starts reading everything. After a short while, Lestia finishes interpreting the first task. With that, Katrina thinks that there's not much for her to teach her anymore. Compared to the time that she spent at the academy learning how to interpret, the child does it so easily and quickly. Wow, Lestia is such an amazing child! Proceeding to the next task, which is to read the grimoire out loud, Lestia is quite worried that she might trigger magic. However, she trusts her tutor more. As she starts to read it out loud, the spell starts to activate a magic circle. Although she starts having second thoughts, she does not want to mess anything up, so she continues to keep on reading. She is determined to accomplish the task properly, so she keeps going. She does not understand what is happening, but it seems like she's having a conversation with the grimoire. As she continues to read, she is asked about what kind of power she wants to imbue. The grimoire is waiting for her to respond, but she cannot think of anything. She is still confused about what is currently going on. Moreover, Lestia does not even know what the spell is creating. She says that she doesn't know what kind of powers to imbue, as it is the safest answer she could give. With that, the grimoire responds that it is the end. As the magic circle slowly disappears, a black stone comes into sight. Despite not having any clue about what is going on, Katrina seems to be proud of Lestia. Even just by reading the grimoire, she is able to make something uniquely possible. The stone that she just created contains mana, which is why it's called a magic stone. Usually, a formula and combining various ingredients are needed in order to decipher a grimoire. However, Lestia is able to extract it out of thin air, which is really amazing. If the magic stone is slightly manipulated, it can even turn into a mana neutralization stone. Way to go, Lestia! Our girl is truly amazing. It is possible for her to make mana neutralization stones as long as she has the right grimoire for them. With that, she comes up with the idea to make magic stones as a gift for her brothers. It will be even more useful than paper flowers, and Lesion would appreciate it as well. What a good sister! Lestia is now determined to learn how to create mana neutralization stones for her brothers. But unfortunately, the grimoires that have details about the proper steps have all been hidden away by the Imperial family. Even Katrina can't find them for her. The Mana Stones are considered to be the Verchester family's weakness, which means that the Imperial family is controlling them through their weakness. Similar to how her uncle used to make her beg to let her stay with him because she had nowhere else to go. However, her uncle didn't even bother to open their door and just told the little child that she better make some money if she wanted to get inside their house. Presently, she just realizes that her uncle took advantage of her and made his living off of her in the past. She then asks if the Imperial family is paying the Verchester family with mana neutralization stones in return for something. The conversation between Lestia and Katrina is cut off when the three of her brothers come inside the room out of the blue. They are worried because they can sense mana coming from inside. The boys then start to blame the professor for it, but Lestia assures them that she is alright. Momentarily, Katrina calms everyone down as she shows them the magic stone that their little sister made earlier. She explains that the mana they noticed was because of it. She then proudly tells them how Lestia made it possible. The boys think that what happened is amazingly unbelievable. Matthias is so proud of his little sister that he carries her and turns her around because he can't contain his happiness. Although Lestia thinks that it's really not that great since for her, it's just a black pebble. Her brothers think otherwise. Their relationship is so cute. I love how totally taken the boys are with their little sister. In fact, magic stones have many uses. A magic stone is needed when you want to use magic that wasn't inherited by blood. For example, it took 3 magic stones for the magic tool that Katrina used to bring her to the Verchester Duchy yesterday. With that information, Matthias is surprised because that many stones are probably worth the yearly salary of an academic professor. Katrina then teases him for a while because of what he said. Shortly, he realizes that he is acting childishly in front of Lestia, so he suddenly behaves. In Katrina's mind, she wonders if being the interpreter is amazing or if Lestia is simply amazing, which she finds interesting. After hearing that the stone is worth a professor's yearly salary, Lestia wants to make and sell magic stones. However, Gerard thinks that there's no need for a lady from the Verchester family to make money by selling magic stones because their family already has more than enough money. Ugh, to be this rich. For her, she wants to make her own allowance at least. While her brothers are proud of her for thinking that way, Gerard plans to teach her how to familiarize herself with using money instead. Lestia thinks that money is supposed to be saved and used only when necessary. In that case, Matthias offers to go shopping with her. He plans to buy all kinds of things for her if their older brother permits them. But interpreting the stern look in their older brother's eyes, Joel volunteers to take the responsibility of teaching their sister about money despite Matthias's complaints. Later on, Lycian approaches Gerard. He asks him about his plan with Lestia's ability. Actually, the situation is not for the Duke to decide. He can't force her to do anything. However, if she desires, he plans to keep her hidden away forever, just like Lycian. He gets upset with the fact that his older brother is going to make her live like him. A life of seclusion, devoid of freedom and hidden away in the Verchester Duchy. Knowing Lestia, she is curious about a lot of things in life, so she would definitely feel lonely and frustrated. What a sad life! Please, Gerard, do not subject our precious Lestia to such a fate! However, if she desires otherwise, Gerard does not plan on wasting her ability. If her ability comes to light, then he has no choice but to show her to the world. However, it is possible that the Imperial family won't stand by if it is revealed that she is the interpreter. He will step forward if that happens. Lycian feels anxious about it. He doubts Gerard is going to risk his own life and wage an all-out war with the Imperial family if things go awry. The Duke probably does not even know how to protect his younger siblings right now, but he can't stop him. Flashback to the day of the former Duke's funeral. Lycian and Gerard had a talk. The 4th son was actually mentioned in their father's will. Moreover, it was also written why he has been hidden away under the pretense of being ill, despite being perfectly healthy. With that, he found out about Lycian's real identity. Since Gerard is now the master of the Verchester family, he will obey whatever his order is. Despite knowing his identity, he still considers him his brother for now. In truth, they don't even share a single drop of blood. He then makes Lycian decide whether he wants to continue living as a Verchester or reclaim his identity. Admittedly, he never wanted to be his brother or reclaim his identity. With that being said, he decided to leave the Verchester family in 1 year. That explains why he starts being distant with Lestia now. Even though what happens to their family does not concern him anymore, he can't stop worrying. Poor Lestia, she has no clue about Lycian's situation. Meanwhile, Joel is trying to teach Lestia how to use money as he gives her a blank check. She needs the item if she wants to familiarize herself with using money. He then tells her to write down any amount of money she needs and use everything that day. Lestia is surprised at how easy getting money is by using a check. Lestia never had her own money before because her uncle would take it all. That's why she doesn't know how much she needs. Momentarily, she writes gold on the blank check. However, Joel suggests getting 1,000 gold instead, since Verchester's checks start at a base of 1,000 gold. That amount of money is too much for her, but her assignment from Gerard is to make use of all of it that day. Shortly, the maid announces that her carriage is ready. They let Lestia shop on her own that day, along with her maid. Firstly, she wants to buy some gifts for her brothers. When they arrive, she starts to look around the place. OMG shopping! A time that most girls dream about. She decides to buy a gift for Gerard first. Momentarily, she finds a tea that he likes, which Katrina mentioned before. After buying it, she proceeds to buy candies for Joel since he likes sweets, and she buys a bag for Matthias since he is returning to school. As for Lysion, she asks one of the knights what her brother might like. A sword knot, which is an accessory to decorate the hilt, is something that he needs, so she proceeds to buy it. She carefully chooses the right design for him. She is the perfect sister ever. She is now done buying gifts for her brothers, but there's still a lot of money left. In the end, she buys all of the servants a gift for each of them. Additionally, her maid tells her to buy something for herself this time. After buying all the clothes and accessories for her, a toy store catches her attention. She notices some kids staring at it, which reminds her of her past. Shortly, she approaches them. Even at a young age, she is very empathetic. The child suddenly vanishes from the crowd, leaving Lestia confused. Franker explains that those are the children who lost their families in the war, so Gerard took them in. Poor children, they must have been traumatized by the presence of the knights and soldiers who partake during the war. Given that, Lestia wonders if the Duke is forcing himself to fight for some time now to maintain a relationship with the imperial family. At this point, she can't help but question her capabilities, that if she only knew how to make mana neutralization stones, he wouldn't have to fight with his life at risk. Suddenly, her attention shifts to the toy store in front of her. The moment she steps in the store, she then plunks a bag of gold coins on the table, ordering the owner to wrap as many toys as he can for the price. Wow, that money is enough to buy the whole store! The owner gasps at her innocent and carefree remarks, but Lestia is determined to help the children who dream of having toys. So she further instructs the owner to send them to the orphanage and allow the children to look around as much as they want. When she comes back to the mansion, her brothers warmly welcome her. Are these guys single? 'Cause I'm single too. She bought her brothers a box of candies, tea leaves, and a bag, to which they gratefully accepted. If I gave them a marriage proposal, would they be grateful as well? Just kidding. But when Lestia tells them that she bought a whole store, her brothers are all surprised at how big a spender she is, thinking that she wants it all for herself. But the reason why Lestia simply wants to help those children is because they remind her of her past as an orphan. Dazed upon hearing the reason for a second, Matthias squeezes her into his arms as Gerard pats her head and compliments her for being thoughtful and kind. Lestia feels proud of herself at her brother's warm approval. As she should, because she deserves it. Gerard is not the type to compliment someone easily. When asked what she wants for herself, her brothers freeze at her answer. All this time, she's been waiting for Lysion's response to her letter. Joel taps her shoulder and asks what kind of letter it was. However, Lestia has no intention of revealing it, which leaves her brother's curiosity at bay. I'm curious too. Is our Lestia in love? That same day, Matthias rushes out to see Lysion, who is currently training as of that moment, and grabs his collar for the sole reason of exchanging letters with Lestia. Lysion smacks his hand, but Joel joins them with a wind wall on his hand, asking if he can deliver it by himself. The thing is, these brothers also want to exchange letters with Lestia, but the kid can't seem to understand the need to. She can just literally talk to them anytime, so why bother writing a letter, right? However, Matthias can't live with this jealousy. He came to rip his letter apart. Lysion thinks that everyone loses their minds. Now he wonders if Lestia messed with their heads or something. Hold up, the kid has nothing to do with their silliness. Yet he's not different from them. Is that a cryptic thought or something? Does it have a deeper meaning behind it? 'Cause we're curious too. However, Lysion doesn't want to hand it over and now is ready to fight for it. Lestia suddenly detects their mana and rushes towards them. She arrives at the scene witnessing Matthias holding Lysion's collar as Joel prepares to strike with his wind wall. She yells at them to stop, asking why they're fighting. Lysion then hands the letter over to Lestia, who clearly didn't know that she's the main reason for their dispute. Upon receiving the letter, Lestia feels warm and happy that she totally forgot about her brothers. Matthias and Joel approach her and ask if they can check the letter in case Lysion wrote bad words or if there's a word that she didn't know. Relax, it's not like she's going to elope with him or burn the whole manor, right? But Lestia doesn't want them to read Lysion's response. Shortly after, Lysion slams the door open. He didn't plan on giving his response like that. Rather than just handing it to her, he wanted to do it more properly. Suddenly, Gerard enters the room, but Lysion isn't expecting him to involve himself about the letter too. Gerard lets out a sigh and calmly asks Lysion a favor. That's quite unusual. After all, is there something he can't do? But Gerard seems serious about it. Until Lestia becomes accustomed to live in the manor, he wants Lysion to stay by her side for a year. Lysion argues that there's no need for him to do that because Lestia is being surrounded by brilliant instructors. As much as Gerard hates to admit, Lestia obviously keeps looking for Lysion. He didn't realize it back then. Lysion didn't expect it either, but he suspects that her behavior is a result of how much they spend a lot of time together. Still, Gerard wants him to play the role of her brother to some extent because he no longer wants to see her disappointed and sad again. At this moment, Lysion realizes that it's not a favor, but a command. Meanwhile, in her room, Lestia happily reads a letter that Lysion compliments her. However, her smile slowly turns into a depressing state as she realizes that his letter is too cold. The next day, Katrina encourages Lestia to ask if there's something she wants to know. However, Lestia knows that Katrina's eyesight will get worse every time she uses her magical eyes, and that she doesn't have a mana neutralization stone to slow down her worsening vision. Katrina explains that even though the Verchesters are the only family with personalized instructions on how to make their stones, it doesn't mean that sorcerers outside the family would die. They just use their magic until it's gone, just like her vision. She then pokes her nose, assuring her that it's normal for sorcerers to use their magical capabilities. But for Lestia, there's no need to figure out the truth, because whether Lysion hates her or not, she would still stay by his side. Katrina laughs and agrees that there are moments when she'd rather not face the truth, especially if it involves a bad guy. Upon mentioning a bad guy, Lestia suddenly remembers Lysion's cold response. She tries to shake it off as Katrina continuously gives her love advice. It's so cute how they have similar taste in men. And oh, who would have thought that someone warm and gentle like Katrina fell for an ever cold-blooded Gerard? The next morning, the item that Lestia bought arrived. She then asks Haylock about Lysion's whereabouts, but it seems like he would be back late. Still, Lestia wants to personally give it, so Haylock invites her into the living room while she waits. That night, Lysion takes longer to be back than she expected, so she peeks out the window, hoping that Lysion isn't lonely in the room given how far it is from everyone else. Suddenly, Lysion enters the room, asking if she will ever get sick of the ocean. Lestia turns around to see Lysion grabbing a chair for her to sit. She then hands out a gift for him, assuring that she also bought her brother some gifts so he won't feel burdened. When Lysion opens the box, it isn't that bad of a gift from a little girl. Lestia is now anxious that he prefers a fancy one, but Lysion assures her once again, saying that he likes it. He then wraps it around his sword and pats her head, asking if there's anything she wants as a gift in return. With a beaming smile, Lestia enumerates the things she wants to do with Lysion. He's kind of surprised at how good she's talking now, unlike before. What else can he do but to foster and protect that? He doesn't want to see her disheartened either. Seeing how Lysion happily agrees to her plans, Lestia comes to realize that he doesn't hate her at all. Her eyes sparkle at the moon dust that covered the entire galaxy as he grins like the Cheshire Cat. Just then, Lysion advises her to go back to her room and rest, but Lestia wants to stare at the ocean once more. Before leaving, Lysion leaves a butterfly made of magic so she won't get lost along the way. Lestia feels warm at his kindness. He's not a bad person at all. The next day, just as she wished, she's able to study with Lysion, but of course, her brothers insisted on studying as well. There's no way they'd give Lysion total access to Lestia's time. As they continue to bicker at each other, Lestia notices the paper flower that she gave to Lysion. It turns out that Lysion has been using it as a bookmark. Now, Matthias and Joel are even more envious of Lysion. After that, Lestia struggles to brighten up the tense atmosphere for what felt like forever. I don't know how Lestia has been able to handle their tantrums. Give the child a break! In the kitchen, the butler instructs the chef to prepare 3 meals together as well as a basket of sandwiches for a picnic. The chef exclaims that for the past 10 years, it's his very first time packing a lunch for a picnic. Also, the Duke invited almost every type of artist to record Lestia's growth. Lestia's like a glue that tightens the brothers' bond together. She's such an angel! Later that day, Lestia catches up to Matthias and Joel, who are waiting under the tree. Matthias, being an earth sorcerer, asks Lestia to sit on the ground. Joel picks her up, scolding his brother for letting her sit on the ground. All hands down to Lestia's patience for these men. All of a sudden, rain starts pouring. Lestia becomes teary-eyed because she looked forward to them having a picnic together. Suddenly, someone casts a barrier that prevents them from getting wet. Oh my, who is this knight in shining armor? Lestia happily exclaims Gerard's arrival on their picnic date. OMG, my Duke! I don't mind the cold personality. I'd be happy to soak myself in the rain for as long as I last. He then uses wind magic to dry Lestia's clothes, ignoring Joel's remarks. On the other hand, all Matthias does is to bite his lip. He can't throw a tantrum in front of the Duke. Looking at the basket of sandwiches, Lestia wonders when will Lysion come. Speaking of the handsome Lysion, he leans closer to her face, asking why she looks sad. Lestia quickly avoids his gaze as her face turns red at his sudden appearance. When everything's settled, Matthias offers to play cards with Lestia, but the others strongly object. Lestia feels like a sandwich between Joel and Matthias, who bicker at each other again, so she picks a card and agrees to play with her brother. Suddenly, Lestia notices that there are 3 men with horses entering their duchy. Joel assures her not to worry since they're just messengers from the imperial family. That means the Emperor must be starting another war. Lestia trembles upon hearing the word war. Matthias gently grabs her shoulders and assures her not to worry. The next day, Lestia can't stop thinking about the war. Katrina's even more surprised that she asks about it, so she explains that the Emperor would always start a war after winter. Lestia looks so gloomy that nobody has ever told her about the details. Despite her young age, she still wants to know why her uncle disappeared and how the previous Duke passed away. She can't help but to wish she's a grown-up who everyone can trust. That night during dinner, Gerard announces that he will be leaving the duchy to participate in the war soon. When Lestia asks when exactly he is leaving, Gerard just pats her head without telling her. Lestia, with a disheartened look, just watches how her brother slowly walks out of the room. No, he just doesn't want her to worry, but she's not assured either. The next day, Gerard left the castle early in the morning with his army in tow, without telling Katrina anything, so Lestia took an entire day to comfort her. I bet Lestia is going to be a professional psychologist in the future. A few days later, it's time for Joel, Matthias, and Katrina to leave for school. Matthias shamelessly cries in the middle of the road, unable to leave Lestia behind. Katrina pinches his cheek so he'll come to his senses. As they get on the ship, Lestia wonders if Lysion's too smart to attend the Imperial Academy. The next day, Lestia isn't used to having nobody around. Despite how they bicker at each other, they still fill the voids and the emptiness inside her. Suddenly, Lysion places a book on her head, startling her wandering thoughts. Seeing how Lestia looks so gloomy, Lysion wants to comfort her, but he's quite hesitant to lift a finger. But even if no one told him to act like a brother, when he sees her so lifeless, he can't help but to be the one she can lean on. For the first time, Lysion calls her by her name, Lestia, asking if she isn't bored inside the library. Lestia panics, scared that she's been taking space for too long, but Lysion places his hand on her shoulder to calm her down. He then asks if there's something she wants to do. Lestia, being afraid that he'll leave her, thinks of something relevant to him, and so she starts talking about her swordsmanship classes. She's proud to have her very first sword soon, even though it's just a wooden one. So when that day comes, she wants to start training with him every morning at the training hall. She also wants to spar and beat him in swordsmanship. She's too cute. If I were Lysion, I'd let her take the win. And my heart too. Moreover, she just made a magic stone recently. If she keeps studying grimoires, she might be able to make mana neutralization stones. On top of that, she wants him to use the one she makes, so he'll have to stay with her until then. Lysion considers her ideas, but they can't do something like that as of the moment, so Lestia exclaims that she wants to go to the place where he most likely likes to spend time. The seaport. Lestia didn't expect that. For her, he sounds like any time he's ready to leave her. Seeing how Lestia slumps on her chair, Lysion agrees to bring her in the area. That night, Lysion and Lestia rode a horse together. Lestia thought she'd be fine to ride the horse alone, but she isn't used to horseback riding yet. When they arrive, Lestia's mood brightens. The view is totally different compared to the morning market. Lysion holds her hand, telling her not to lose a grip so she won't get lost. Her heart can't stop pounding, feeling the warmth of his palm. They surely do have good chemistry, even though they aren't aware of it. Lysion then encourages her to try releasing a sky lantern into the sky. Suddenly, a store vendor pops up and starts convincing her to offer a sky lantern to the god who desires flames. It's already accustomed to their place that when they release flames to the sea, their wish will come true. Lestia realizes how sad it is to give the sea god something she can't have on her own. After all, the sky lantern is destined to disappear once it touches her body. But the wishes of the people are more important than those of a god. Everyone is wishing for their family member's safe return from the war. So Lestia finally decides to buy a sky lantern for her brother's safe return from the war and from the academy. She's such an angel. We must protect her. Also, she fervently wishes that Lysion leaves and stays with her for a long time. But on second thought, she starts to question her own selfishness for such desires. So, she just wishes that he will be happy instead. Suddenly, her sky lantern starts to fall, so Lysion uses his fire magic to light it up. Now, everyone's sky lanterns lit up even brighter than before. Lestia smiles upon the aesthetically pleasing sight of the fires in the dark sky. Just then, Lestia asks if it's okay for her to enjoy the view while her brother is off to war. Lysion pats her head and explains that Gerard always leaves for battle without prior notice. Also, Verchester sorcerers are expected to go to battle when they become adults. Lysion taps her nose, noticing that she's been making a slump face for some time now. Lysion, I tell you, stop doing things that can be misunderstood. We are kind of suspecting that you like her. Lestia changes the topic and asks if he won't be releasing a lantern too. Lysion had done it a lot of times when he was still a kid, wishing to become someone without greed. But his wish came true, so he believes that her wishes would also come true too. Lestia can't quite understand how such a kind-hearted man like him became too greedy. On their way home, Lysion gave her permission to join him in his usual training at dawn. That morning, Lestia wakes up feeling groggy from staying up late last night. Still, she made it to the training hall with a beaming smile on her face. She is a girl of her words. The other swordsmen who also partake during the training are all shocked to see Lestia in the hall. Lysion notices that they already swarmed over her, so he stands behind her and tells them to go away. But these guys keep hollering that they also want to train with her too. Still, Lestia is determined to train hard and beat him. She's so cute. Watch out, Lysion. She's gonna beat you to a pulp. And so Lestia's days became very busy. Not only did she do sword training with Lysion each morning at dawn, but she also began researching mana neutralization stones on her own. One time, while she's studying in the library, Haylock knocks, announcing that her portrait has been completed. Lestia clearly didn't want it to be that many, but as ordered, Haylock explains that it is to lessen her burden in sitting hours for a single one. When the artist uncovers the veil, she's in awe of her own self, even though it's still far from her expressing her beauty and cuteness. Haylock smiles and asks where she wants to put it. She absolutely loves it. Lestia is confused for a moment, but Haylock further tells her that Gerard granted her the authority to make all decisions while they're gone. Despite how pretty she looks, she still doesn't want to exhibit it anywhere. So Haylock suggests hanging it in the basement vault containing all the family treasures. As soon as they got there, a mountain of treasures stumbled upon the entrance. At the end of the hallway is where the portraits of the Verchester family lie. As she gets to pass by each of them, she can't help but to question Lysion's absence in the family portraits. Haylock avoids eye contact, seemingly ignoring her question. However, she uses her authority to give permission about the matter. Haylock, though hesitant, has no choice but to spill the family's secret. Haylock explains the absence of Lysion's childhood portrait. Apparently, Lysion had been very ill and was unable to participate in social situations. The previous Duke did not order any portraits made due to the boy's supposed impending death. Haylock's account finally explains Lestia's interaction with Lord Lysion, where he said he wouldn't go to the academy just like her two other brothers. She feels lacking and inspired to know more about her family, so she requests Haylock to tell her more about her family, to which he obliges wholeheartedly. Who better than the man who had started working at the household after the Duchess's death, and when Lysion was already 4 years of age? He then walks Lestia through the hall, showing the portraits of the former Duke and Duchess. Lestia, while listening, observes the portraits. She notices that her brother Gerard looks so much like their father, but with black hair and red eyes. Curious about her father, she asks Haylock how he passed away. The butler apologizes and reasons that she is not allowed to know as she is still a child. Looking into her father's red eyes, she inquires about his magic attribute. It turns out that his magic was fire, as evident with his red eyes. Upon hearing this, she's well aware that her brother Lysion also uses fire magic too, so she wonders why his eyes aren't red as well. To somehow confirm her suspicion, she asks Haylock what color Lysion's eyes are. As a matter of factly, Haylock unhesitatingly responds that it's red, just like the former Duke's. Lestia is shocked by the revelation. Was she the only one able to see Lysion's golden eyes? In her room, she looks at the Verchester's family crest. She just then realizes that the lion with 4 eyes has each eye color corresponding to the magic that the family possesses. She admits to herself that she has never looked at it that way, as she has never met anyone other than Lestia who possesses fire magic. She pushes her suspicions away and doubts the butler's words. Dora, her personal maid, suddenly comes in, so Lestia reconfirms with the color of Lesia's eyes. The same as the butler, she also confidently answers the same. They're red, just like the ruby that she sees on the family crest. Resiliently, before she can doubt herself further, she decides to ask him personally the following day during their sword training. She arrives at the training grounds earlier than him, but before she can ask him, she stops herself. She recalls the time when Katrina was suspicious of him, and so he had avoided her since then. It mortifies her that he might do the same thing, so she ends up with empty information regarding his eyes. There must be a reason why he's hiding his true nature. In front of Lestia is a stack of paper, which she uses in writing letters to her brothers, Joel and Matthias. She makes sure to update both of them equally to avoid any conflict, telling them about her recent adventures and discovery of their childhood portraits. Finishing up the letter for both, she encloses each in separate envelopes with matching color seals as their eyes. And then, Lestia decides to write one more letter to her mentor, Miss Katrina. Lestia makes sure that she updates her mentor with her studies, and at the end of her letter, she asks her mentor if she knows about spells that can change the color red. Looks like Lestia is still curious about Lesia's golden eyes. A couple of days later, Haylock hands Lestia the response letter from Miss Katrina. Unsurprisingly, the mentor knew that her student's question was related to Lesion. Katrina commends the child for noticing her brother's eyes, but she also expresses regret that she's unable to provide more information and implores Lestia to feign ignorance upon her recent discovery. Unable to do anything else, she follows her mentor's words for now so she can keep her brother by her side. She decides to read her brother's letters and a book before going to sleep. Dora expresses her concern about her going to bed late, but she brushes it off and continues reading. At dawn, just before training time, Lestia wakes up tired. To avoid disappointment from Lesion, she pushes herself to get ready for practice. She arrives in the training room, and after exchanging greetings with her three guardians, Lesion goes to her. The trio and Lesion exchange worried looks. He puts his hand on her forehead and senses a fever coming. He hurriedly offers to bring her to her room to rest. After a complaint and a dizzy spell, she faints. Oh no! She wakes up in a dream, surrounded by darkness and vast water. Standing on top of dark, deep blue, cold water, Lestia realizes that she's in a dream. The seawater crashes around her. She crouches and trembles in fear. Suddenly, a lantern giving off warmth and light appears before her. She knows this lantern. She released it herself out to sea. The waves crash again, this time dousing the lantern and taking it away. Lestia expresses her regret for giving the god of the sea the flames in the lantern, as they would ultimately get extinguished anyways. The sea replies to her with a challenge. If she can protect what is precious to her, she has to prove it. Fire butterflies appear. They seem to be Lesion's. However, the waves continue to crash and the butterflies are getting dangerously close to the water. Set on protecting the butterflies, a grimoire materializes in her hand. She reads it, putting a stop to the crashing waves and keeping the fire butterflies safe. It flies close to her and flies away. She pleads for it to stay. In place of the butterflies, Lesion appears. He puts his hand on her eyes and promises to stay with her. She believes him and falls asleep. After waking up from her dream, she sits up and sees Lesion. Her hand was covered by his. Sensing her movements, he wakes up and makes sure she's okay. The way he was positioned, sitting beside her bed, he must have taken care of her all night. And so Lestia acknowledges this and thanks him. Still holding her hand, Lesion reveals to Lestia that she has been asleep for 2 whole days due to fatigue from overwork. Wow, that's a long time to be asleep! He lets go for a bit to fetch medicine for her. Seeing her dismay for letting go, he immediately gets back to her and feeds her the bitter medicine. He instructs her to go to sleep and rest more. Afraid that he might leave, she pleads with him to stay with her, and he does, and so she falls asleep once again. For a moment of reprieve, Lesion stands up and lets go of Lestia's hand. She stirs. She's having a nightmare, reaching and pleading out to someone. The image reminds him of himself when he was young. He hurries back to her side and holds her hand once again, calming her. Silently, he swears to always be there as a supporting brother for her so she doesn't feel alone. Unlike he was in the past. Flashback to when Lesion was a child. The current empress wanted to cement her son's position on the throne as the official crown prince, so she had all opposition eliminated. It included the crown princess at the time, Roxanne Morcatium, and her family. The crown princess with her pale eyes and dark hair was very protective of her son, who had inherited his golden eyes from his father. He remembers a day when she was particularly protective of him. At that time, he also felt his father's magic in harm's way. He is handed over to a nanny who held him in her arms as they went on a walk to somewhere special. His mother led them through the basement passage. Knights followed, and Lestia and Nanny at the back, a protected position. It was too quiet. Only their light footsteps could be heard in the darkness. In the nanny's arms, ignorant to the danger, he squeezed the woman carrying him in fear. In the basement passage, almost to the exit, the escaping party is blocked by Brienne Onridris. The crown princess is familiar with this person and his family. The Onridris family has the magic ability to make powerful magical swords. A consequence of this is that the people who wield the weapons become corrupted and become villains. Brienne Onridris is in league with the Empress, driven by personal gain, to find the princess no matter what. He makes his jealousy toward the princess's husband clear and claims that if he can't have her, she might as well die at his hands. Roxanne looks at her son, impatient to get out and save him, and is ready to take on the mad swordsman in front of her. He brandishes his crimson sword and swings at her. The attack is stopped by a magic barrier. She looks at her son. Lestia protected her. The madman seizes, and it makes him even angrier. The woman in front of him, whom he admires, has a son. His mad magic tries to reach the boy, but Roxanne blocks it with her own sword. She urges the nanny to take her boy away. The nanny turns around to run, and as she does, her ankle gets hit. Ignoring the pain, she successfully takes him outside and hides him in the thick bushes. In pain and trying to assure Lestia, she instructs him that they're going to play hide and seek. She tells him to hide, only come out if his dad calls, and to not use his magic to avoid trouble. Lestia doesn't want to play, he complains. Desperate now, she tries to bargain with him with his favorite cookies. Before fulfilling her promise, she falls, leaving poor Lestia all alone. Trembling in the bushes, Lestia covers his ears. The nanny lay dead just a distance away. He can feel his father's mana clashing with someone else's. It scares him. A sudden explosion from a distance reminds him of his nanny's reminder to not use his magic, so he sits still as instructed. Out of nowhere, a hand reaches to him, and finally his father appears, white hair, golden eyes, and unfortunately, missing an arm. He waits for his father to call him, but he can't help himself, so he hurries by his side. He asks for his mom and nanny from his father, but gets no answer. The man carries him quietly to a clearing where a carriage waits. A woman with blonde hair and brown eyes hurries to them. The Duchess of Verchester, Armelda, worriedly approached, noticing the injury of Lesia's father. Instead, he introduces his son, Lestia, as a member of the imperial family. The Duchess has been the princess's closest friend since they were children. It's only natural now that she's worried about her. Roxanne used to look after her when they were children, as Imelda was sickly. They were like sisters until the princess vanished without a word, leaving her devastated. The day came when Roxanne sent a request for assistance. She hurried to the location of the request and she found a man and a child instead. There was no sign of her friend. The man in front of her is her friend's husband. This man was known to be a monster of the imperial family. His name is Arthur, a being created from an experiment and the only survivor. He's able to use all kinds of magic, but with the assistance of mana neutralization stones for maximum effect, just like the Verchesters. The Verchesters despise the man, and no one would suspect the family to hide the child of their enemy within their walls, Imelda thinks. She knew that her friend was fascinated by the man. She never expected the two of them to fall in love. She looks at the child now in her arms. His hair and some of his facial features are just like her friend's, except his eyes. Arthur caresses his child one last time. With his remaining hand, he ignores the child's call for his mother and nanny and directly instructs him to follow the Duchess for his safety, that he must live in silence. Lestia reaches out to his father and pleads for him. He tries to escape from Imelda's arms, but to no avail. Arthur walks away, prompting the boy to thrash even more. They hurry in the carriage, and he settles as he tires himself out. In the basement passage, Arthur faces the madman, Onridris. The swordsman stands over him as he musters up his remaining strength to summon his magic in his one hand. Flashes of his life with his wife and child pass. He gets hold of Brienne's neck. It glows, and all the magic he could summon in his only remaining hand is focused on one area. It charges up, glows even brighter, and boom! In the carriage, Lestia can feel his father's mana build up and clash. He was familiar with it, but not with the feeling of it exploding. The mana, which he knew too well, exploded and is now gone. Lestia cries. First his mother and nanny, now his father is gone too. The Duchess holds the boy in her lap and reminds him of his father's wish for him to live with the Verchesters. He will be one of the sons of the Verchesters for his safety. They arrive at the Duchess's estate, and two boys meet them. They are about Lysion's age, both blonde but with different eye colors, one green and the other pink. The two Verchester boys meet their mother. Behind her skirts is a dark-haired child with red eyes. Before arriving, Imelda had advised the child to change the color of his eyes so he could fit in and so that no one would suspect. She specifically chose red, just like her husband's eyes. She introduces Lysion to her other two sons with the excuse of him living at a different place due to his age, and she implores the two blonde boys to take care of him when she's not around. The following day, Callan Verchester looks at the son of his two enemies in fascination. He bestows the small child in front of him his name, but with one condition: to wear a ring that suppresses his magic and to only use fire as his main magic to avoid any suspicion from the outside. Callan puts the ring on Lysion's forefinger. The effect is immediate. As soon as the ring is on his finger, the magic is suppressed, making him nauseous as a result. He falls and struggles to adjust at first, but is soon able to adapt after his meeting with the Duke. Outside the Duke's room, a boy he hasn't met before with blonde hair and blue eyes looks at him with curiosity. One of the Verchester boys, and by his height and mannerisms, is the eldest. He just walks away with no incident. You could say he was scoping out the new brother that he heard from his mother. Alone in his big room in the Verchester mansion, Lysion yearns for his parents and his nanny. The poor boy misses his family. A year passes, and as hooded men approach Lysion, they introduce themselves as his mother's, the crown princess's comrades. They claim that they know about the perpetrator of their family's demise, and with that, they offer their assistance if he ever wants to get revenge. He recalls the last memories he has with his parents. He knows that revenge was the last thing they wanted him to do. He declines the offer out of respect for his parents' last wishes. Little Lysion wished to the sea with a lantern to take away his greed, to be strong enough to let him not want revenge, and for him to honor his parents' wishes. He swore to himself on that day that no matter how hard and lonely his life becomes, he will be a good son of the Verchester. Holding Lestia's hands, he admits to himself that he doesn't see this as his duty. He's doing this because he doesn't want another child to feel like he did. He wants her to be happy. As if hearing this, the little girl smiles. Relieved, Lysion wonders what the other brothers are up to now. In the academy dorms, Matthias and Joel share a big room. They discuss how their day went, with Matthias showing tiredness instead of Joel, who was actually busy. The pink-eyed boy complains further that he misses his little Liti, and the expectation for him to study. He opens a letter from Lestia. She wrote him 3 pages. Seeing that Joel also has one, they confirm that he also received the same treatment, 3 pages. Matthias comments on his brother's interaction with the other students after his speech, also expressing his curiosity about what they talked about. The green-eyed Verchester tells his brother about the latest trend with the female students, a headband with flower decorations, something that might look good on their little sister. The young nobles were also asking him about their sister, how she purchased a toy shop for orphans in their duchy. One of the nobles commented about it, saying she might have purchased it due to her low upbringing. The remark visibly ticked Joel, causing the nobles to realize their mistake and apologize. He let the nobles go out of consideration for their sister. What a good brother! Put them in their place, Joel! He admits to Matthias that he was only close enough to them to ask about the headband for Lestia. Matthias notices something along with Joel's letter, a copy of little Liti's portrait. Competitive as always, he expresses his jealousy and his desire to get a bigger copy. Joel opens another letter, this time from Lysion. Without saying anything, he gets his coat and orders Matthias to get a teleportation stone. Matthias questions his brother's hurry and is met by Joel's worried answer. Their precious sister collapsed. Lestia wakes up from her sleep, dazed, and sees her 2 brothers in front of her. Instead of greeting them, she looks for Lysion, thinking he might have cast an illusion for her. Jealous of the attention, as usual, Matthias squeezes her face. Realizing that they are indeed present beside her surprises her. Gerard is even there in the background. She asks him about the war. Gerard answers her in a straightforward manner. He claims that thanks to her, the war ended early. The soldiers' morale was boosted after she gave them paper flowers. Lestia humbly denies her minor assistance, but her brother refuses to back down until she finally accepts the fact that she was a big help. She turns her attention to her other brothers, curious about how they got to her so fast. They explain to her the involvement of a transportation stone. This concerns her, as such things normally come with consequences when used. Seeing as how her brothers dropped everything and went to her as soon as they heard of her sickness, she feels guilty. She apologizes for being sick and not taking care of her health better. Gerard once again reassures her that she does not need to apologize for such trivial things. Verchesters did not need to do so. She looks at her brothers with her mouth agape. This is something she needs to get used to in the future, now that she has brothers who are willing to do anything for her. Matthias convinces Lestia not to apologize for such small things. Her brothers surround her with such warm smiles. She then walked down the staircase and was stopped by her brothers. They were worried about Lestia, for she is sick, causing her to collapse frequently. Earlier, she was given an earful of nagging from Dora as she was worried about her health too. Matthias carries his sister and brings her to the balcony so that they can watch an amazing sight that is about to happen together. A big magic circle is being created that covers the hall. Then suddenly, a whole army of soldiers appear inside the circle. The magic circle transported all the soldiers from the north after their designations. A soldier waves his hand towards Lestia, and Lestia responds by waving back. Lestia was amazed by the magnificent magic execution from the soldiers upon their transport. She also wonders if the magic they had earlier performed was dangerous. Matthias answers and reassures her that there's nothing they need to worry about. By this, Lestia's resolve to know more about magic grew immensely. Gerard's arrival creates a different ambiance of the entire hall. They all raise their glasses, including Lestia holding a glass of juice, and took a toast. The whole palace is filled with dance and music as soon as their party starts. Matthias offered Lestia a dance, but she stopped as soon as Matthias offered his hands. Gerard holds Lestia's shoulders as if he was telling her to dance with him instead. Gerard advises Lestia not to stress her body out just for a dance. Gerard has been worried about his sister and wants to keep her safe and healthy. The Verchester's family retainer notices the sudden happy gathering of the siblings, seeing this as one of the rarest events to happen. Even the victory party being held, it's almost a miracle. The soldiers think of this as a positive change for the family. Lestia insisted on following her brother's advice and went upstairs to check on Lysian. Lysian has been avoiding the people since they knew the news about him being out for a year. Despite her weak and tired body, Lestia pushes herself to reach the balcony, hoping to find Lysian. In the shadows, he hid himself to avoid her, though she still found him. Lysian commands Lestia to go downstairs, but she still insists on talking to him. She doesn't want to break their bond and create a distance between them, so she made something unpredictable to him. She politely thanked Lysian for everything. This surprised Lysian, since her odd attitude towards him seemed suspicious. Lestia tells him about the dream she had where her lantern reached the sea, which means her wishes should come true. Along with her wish for everyone to be safe, Lestia also wishes for Lysian's happiness. She offers a promise to Lysian. Despite her shortcomings in her training, she wants to have a promise with Lysian to wait for her. Even for a year, Lysian thinks that making a promise would be meaningless, yet he did. Lestia is then called by her brothers downstairs, but she doesn't want to go down unless her Lysian joins her. Forced to go down, Lysian went with Lestia and used his magic to create fascinating luminant butterflies at the hall. 1 year later, Lestia is already 12 years old, and at the same time Lysian arrives from his assignment. Lestia visits him at his office, only to see Lysian having a little nap from his readings. Both of them converse as they prepare for Lestia's brother's arrival. After a few days, upon their graduation, Matthias and Joel made it back to their house. Lestia went inside and sat at a table. There she was bombarded with so many invitation letters from families that wished to befriend her. Miss Katrina arrives as she carefully chooses 5 capable and good friends for Lestia. Since it would be Lestia's first time to befriend someone, she randomly chooses a black envelope sealed with purple wax. As she opened the letter, she saw a messy and quite different content. Katrina tells her that the one she chose was the invitation coming from the Galarian family, a family who can see the future, but in exchange, they spend half of their lives sleeping. The only daughter of said family has been awakened after 3 years of sleep. The penmanship and the way the letter was written tells the sender must be quite unfamiliar with writing. This idea sparked Lestia's curiosity, since she and the Galarian's daughter might have a common ground. The same day, Lestia visits Galarian's residence and is welcomed by Angela Galarian's mother. She took Angela's place since she's currently sick. As both of them walk through the house, Angela's mother notifies Lestia to be understanding when it comes to talking with Angela. She spent half of her life sleeping, so her attitude might come off as naive. There, in the garden, in her wheelchair, Angela waited for Lestia's arrival. Upon her arrival, Angela shows her attentiveness and eagerness towards Lestia that she fell from her wheelchair. It seems that she's been anticipating her for quite some time. In her excitement, Angela fell off her wheelchair. She was too excited to know more about Lestia since the two of them apparently met in a dream. Seeing her in person must be a dream come true. Angela tells her about the dream she had, a prophecy of them. In her dream, she cast spells from a book and used it to let Angela fly out the air. From then on, both of them became best friends. Every day they would meet and mingle. One day, both of them decide to have lunch at a restaurant downtown where there would be a chocolate fountain on display. All the while, the surrounding teens and women start murmuring, bad-mouthing them. Annoyed, Angela throws her chocolate drink towards the face of a woman who insulted her and her friend. Angela bursts out of anger so much that she announces a prophecy. The prophecy she's talking about is linked with Lestia and her taming the dark and powerful eagle in the Empire. As the audience hear her prophecy, they started to think that the eagle Lestia is going to tame might be the Crown Prince, or Lysion. So Lestia is preoccupied during the carriage ride home. She's probably thinking about the prophecy earlier. Angela went home since she was already exhausted because of the prophecy and was fetched by her mother. On the way home, Lestia's carriage is stopped by an imperial carriage. Seitan, captain of the Imperial Knights, asks Lestia to come with him because she is being summoned by the Empress. If she declines the invitation, they might take her by force. At the Imperial Palace, as Seitan guides Lestia toward the Empress's room, she can't help but notice the unusual necklace worn by Seitan. It is apparently a magical tool that suppresses his inner desires, which his family passed down. But seeing Seitan's reaction, he seems to be uncomfortable wearing that said necklace. The Empress straightforwardly confronted Lestia about the recent prophecy she had heard. If the Black Eagle said in the prophecy was indeed her son, the Crown Prince, she proposes that both of them should live together and help nurture the Empire. This news comes as a shock to Lestia, and an overwhelming pressure covers her whole body as the Empress glares at her. The Empress tells her that she should go home, and Lestia exits. As she was about to go home, the Crown Prince approached her with malicious intent. He touches Lestia's face with lust. Seitan then slaps his hand away from her. This triggered the Crown Prince's anger as he tilted his fist. Suddenly, Seitan passed out. Seitan is still conscious, looking at Lestia's state being dragged forcefully by the Crown Prince. In the garden, the Crown Prince presented a proposal that contained the details about their soon-to-be marriage. But Lestia seems to be uncomfortable hearing them talk about marriage. He was about to touch Lestia. Somebody punched him and knocked him down. It was Matthias! Flashback. At the Verchester's home, Matthias and Joel are in a panic since Lestia isn't home yet, so they both decide to head out to the Imperial Palace themselves. As they try to slip their way in, they stumbled upon a wall and managed to break into the palace. Currently, the Crown Prince is lying on the ground, and Matthias is standing in front of Lestia. Matthias charges towards the Crown Prince, heaving a barrage of attacks on him. Joel arrives as he covers Lestia's eyes to prevent her from seeing the horrible scene. Joel stumbles upon a proposal letter containing their supposed-to-be marriage. This angered Joel as he unleashed his wind magic to create a barrier against the guards coming towards them. The Crown Prince wasn't done with his scheme. He opened a black smoke potion that enhances the sorcerer's mana and causes the mana stones to fade. As the mana stones were about to wear off, Matthias attempted to create an earth magic attack towards the Crown Prince. On the other hand, Lestia tries to recall the grimoire she once read. The grimoire that could enhance the vicinity with mana stones in order for the sorcerers to control their magic. Lestia successfully uses her incantations and then passes out. As she passed out, Lysion arrived at the scene, shocked and confused. Hours to minutes before the incident happened, Lysion and his companions silently uncovered the truth about his mother and the imperial family's relationship. Lysion's father was so angry that he wanted everyone to dispose of those who experimented on him. The princess wholeheartedly asked for his forgiveness by kneeling down and offering her life, one way to forgive the imperial family. After that day, Lysion's father went far away. Well, not so far away. From a distance, he followed the princess and swore his loyalty to her. Eventually, they would bear their child, Lysion. After her mother's death, no one ever had the courage to calm his father again. For comparison, Lysion remembers how Lestia had been calming him from his inner thoughts. This must have been the same for his father. When their group was about to leave, Lysion felt Joel's and Matthias' magic from a distance. That's when he arrived at the scene where Lestia passed out. As Lysion tries to calm his former brothers down, he hears the news about the Crown Prince giving a marriage proposal to Lestia. This angers Lysion enough to remove his mana stones. He orders the Verchesters to leave with Lestia and keep her safe. He was about to take responsibility on his own for this incident, the murder of an Imperial member. The guards suddenly show up and surround him with swords. Lysion calmly opens his hood as he reveals that he is a son of Lady Roxanne and the previous Crown Prince. At the palace, Lestia kneels to the Emperor as he presents himself as the son of Lady Roxanne and his father. The Emperor questions his being at the Imperial Palace without any notice. This reminds him of his mother being insolent and bold. Lestia then states that even without hearing the Emperor's words, he already knows that he acknowledges him as a successor to the throne. He wasn't even charged with the murder of the Crown Prince. This shows how the Emperor disliked the Crown Prince Erichin for so long that he prevented him from holding his position as Emperor. Knowing that someone aside from Erichin could become the successor of the throne, the Emperor is a little relieved. Right then, Lestia was given the Grand Duke Cassius title. The Emperor also bestowed the southern territory that once belonged to his mother. In the Emperor's mind, he warns Lestia on the impending morbid war for the throne, and he asks him to succeed. Outside the corridor there, the Empress listened to every bit of their conversation and was so angry towards the Emperor for going too far. The Empress also did not expect that Lady Roxanne hid her son since she made sure last time that no one survived. "You monster, Empress!" She then calls Seitan and asked him why he did not kill Lestia during the incident, but Seitan only tells her that he had taken the oath not to kill any member of the imperial family. His statements made the Empress furious and he almost passed out. The necklace on his neck seems to be connected to the Empress. Seitan apologizes to her like nothing happened, and then the Empress asks him about Lestia's exit after the incident. Seitan tells her that no one saw Lestia. They were all puzzled about how Lestia had escaped. The Empress heads to the basement where she kept her son, Erichin's body. There, the Lenante family was also in the basement and wasn't able to revive the Crown Prince, a family that uses healing magic at the expense of their lifespan. But they made a sacrifice. One of their children was killed to create a revival fluid that could revive Erichin. Also, even if the revival fluid would be a success, they wouldn't be sure if the Crown Prince would be alive in his mental state. Though she wants her son to be alive, the Empress doesn't care less, as long as he's moving and retains his Crown Prince title. On the other hand, at Lestia's home, she just woke up from her long slumber after the incident. She's surrounded by her brothers and Miss Katrina. Miss Katrina then explains that Lestia might be in danger soon as she uses magic, since using magic bears a unique downside. They created a hypothesis that the magical power of an interpreter might be coming from the bloodline, since she did not have any grimoire when she cast a spell. Looking back at the incident, Lestia interprets a spell from a grimoire and produces magical stones to alleviate her brother's magic. Miss Katrina also tells her that sooner or later, she can make mana neutralization stones in no time. Lestia then asks him about the things that happened after she passed out, a question which they avoided answering. Her brothers and Miss Katrina then left her room. Lestia woke up from her sleep at midnight thinking about Lesian's condition. Since the incident, he has never gone back to her place. She misses him. Days and hours passed, still no news from Lesian, and Lestia's pretentious smile grew frequent. Her brothers are already worried about her as she expects that Lesian will come back someday. On that same night, a miracle happens. Lesian visits her. Through a window, Lesian enters her room. Previously, Gerard and Lesian had a conversation where they talked about Lestia's future. They plan on letting Lestia out of the palace and pursuing her studies as an interpreter. This saddened Lesian, for he might not be able to see her anymore. Back at the present, as Lestia notices Lesian's entrance, she immediately comes forward. Lestia tells him that he was the worst. She had been worried sick of him. He did not even ask a proper goodbye or anything to her. Lesian laughed it off while Lestia was sulking in the background. She adds that Lesian did not even attend her graduation. In his mind, Lesian thinks that Lestia still has no idea that he has already had the Grand Duke title just recently. It was the best thing that he had to be the one to explain everything. Lesian wipes away her tears with a smile. Lestia then runs towards her bed looking for something she wants to present to Lesian. She then shows him the magic stone she created herself, and bragged about how she could start making mana neutralization stones with a few tricks. Lesian comes to a conclusion upon hearing all the amazing things she showed. She can't really stay at the Morcathium. Since Lestia is very interested in knowing more about grimoires, Lesian proposes that she could leave the Empire to hone her skills as an interpreter. She agrees with this, but with some conditions. Everyone should leave with her too, including her brothers and Lesian. Lesian straightforwardly tells her that he can't go with her since he is not a Verchester. He apologizes for the late announcement, but Lestia already knew about this. She doesn't care if he's not her brother. Recently, Angela told her that someone from the Empire will be a new member of the Imperial family, and it involves Lesian. She brings up the past, how he and she can't do anything they used to do. Lesian apologizes again, for he cannot give any promises to her, for uncertainties might come. He then took his exit as the rain outside was pouring. Lestia tried to chase after him, but she did not make it. He flew away immediately. The next day, at their breakfast, Lestia acts so suspiciously like nothing happened last night. That's when she speaks about going out of Morcathium and studying more as an interpreter. She coldly tells her brothers that they must not worry about her and she'll be packing her clothes after their meal. She left the table and walked out. Outside the door, Lestia sheds her tears about what happened last night. She regretted the things she should have done. She cried immensely and slowly sat on the floor out of frustration. But then, as she always does, she picks herself up and decides to start packing her clothes and necessities. Upon compiling the grimoires, she stumbles upon an old letter from Lysion that contains the praises she once received from him in the past. She is now determined to keep her promise she made to take care of herself. As the ship starts to sail, her friend Angela comes towards her with bawling eyes. Lestia cheers her up to stop her sobbing and hugs her. She initiates a pinky promise to not forget each other. When the time comes, they'll meet again in the future. Matthias came to the scene and tried to cheer the mood by teasing Angela. From a distance, Lysion is there, bidding his farewell to her secretly. 4 years later, at the Grand Duke's office, Lysion is reading a letter about the Empress and the Crown Prince when a sudden throb in his head starts to stun him. He thinks that it might be the side effects of using magic, and these feelings might be the ones his father once felt before. A knock on the door surprises him, and it was Gerard who wished to talk to him. He brought with him a present from Lestia to Lysion. Gerard brings with him Lestia's gift to Lysion, a monostone made by Lestia. Gerard tells him that she'll soon arrive at the capital and will attend the coming-of-age celebration with Angela. Lestia arrives at the house and is being welcomed by Dora. There, Angela surprised and hugged her. Since the coming-of-age needs to be prepared, they decided to choose a dress to wear for the event. Outside the shop, both of them were devastated as it turns out. Shops were all busy making dresses that no available slots were open. Then they found Lisa. Who is she? Lisa was once an orphan and raised by the Verchester family, and since then she was thankful to Lestia for giving out the toys she never had before. Now, in return, she offers to help make a dress, together with Angela for their coming-of-age ceremony. Both of them were so happy and immediately chose their preferred designs. Lestia gives a monostone that lessens the fatigue for Lisa, since it's expected that she'll be exhausted from the rush task. On another note, Lestia proposes to Angela that she will be making a monostone that could prevent her from sleeping for too long again. Angela was so glad that she almost cried. She immediately made and crafted the stone so that it is ready to be given when the day of the event comes. Finally, the day of the ceremony arrives and the dress finally was finished by Lisa. Lestia is so gorgeous! Lestia's preparation for the coming-of-age ceremony leaves Dora in awe. The ever-humble Lestia credits Lily's incredible dress, which she toiled almost restlessly for her dazzling appearance. However, Dora insists it's Lestia's own natural beauty that's breathtaking. Afterwards, in the Great Temple, Lestia congratulates Angela for their coming of age. Angela seems to cherish Lestia's gift, a magic stone preventing her cursed sleep. So she gives Lestia a ring. The two friends attend their ceremony hand in hand. With the ceremony finished, now comes the formal dance. Lestia, after receiving her brooch, notices her brother's present, and they've been attracting attention way too much. Matthias and Joel argue on who Lestia dances with first, and she chooses Gerard, noting she has never done so with him. Joel and Matthias step back, though soon Joel is swarmed by maidens. Matthias, not caring about popularity and such, slips away and finds Angela sitting alone. He correctly assumes Angela's alone since she doesn't have friends due to her being asleep, so he asks her for her first dance. Angela informs him that she can barely stand, but Matthias lifts her up, allowing her to step on his shoes to support herself and assures her he's strong enough. Meanwhile, Lestia gleefully observes Matthias and Angela dancing. She thanks Gerard and they talk about who Gerard had for his first dance. He reveals it's Katrina. Lestia notes the two must have fallen in love then, but she gets shocked when she learns from Gerard Katrina's preparing for her own marriage. Lestia can't believe that Katrina's getting married to someone else at the behest of her family, especially coming from Gerard, who's supposed to be Katrina's lover. Regardless, he doesn't show if he's bothered or not. The siblings' dance soon comes to an end, and Gerard reminds Lestia to not get too guilty with declining dances from other boys, should she dance with others outside her brothers, which makes Lestia laugh. Even Gerard has that jealous side. Meanwhile, Lysion has arrived at the ceremony and is observing Lestia from afar, and who's reminiscing her growth, especially her beauty. However, his face turns sour when he sees someone approaching her. This turns out to be Knight Onredris, who apologizes to Lestia for not taking responsibility and escorting her home in the past, although she says it's alright, since she got home safe by herself. Anyway, Onredris tries to ask her for a dance until Lysion intervenes. Onredris recognizes the Grand Duke and backs off when he says he had prior commitments with Lestia. He doesn't, but Lestia accepts his hand for a dance anyway. At the start, Lestia is curious and a little mad at Lysion's expression. She thought she did something wrong, but mainly it pains her he never came to see nor give her answers. Nonetheless, she can't seem to ignore him now. The pair dances away, in a solemn yet charged atmosphere between them. Lysion sees Lestia wearing a ring and asks about it. She reveals it's a present, though not saying from Angela. In response, Lysion pulls her close, reminding her of never putting a ring on a man's finger and never taking one herself. This time, Lestia informs Lysion that the ring is Angela's gift, which makes the Grand Duke smile again. Things are seemingly okay after their 4-year silence. She even shows a genuine smile. Suddenly, Lysion bids her never to smile like that. This hurts Lestia, who had hoped they're finally getting closer. Remembering her brother Gerard's advice, she immediately withdraws from Lysion's grasp and coldly informs him he'll have to fix his manners first if he wants to have a conversation with her. Lysion can do nothing but watch Lestia leave. He hadn't meant to hurt her feelings. He too felt joy that they were reconciling, but out of jealousy from other men looking at her, he doesn't want her to smile. Anyway, it seems that Her Majesty the Empress had observed Lestia with the Grand Duke. She sips wine in her throne as she thinks of holding a salon, inviting the recent noblewomen who became adults this year. What maliciousness is afoot? A few days pass and Lestia visits Katrina, whose eyes are getting blurrier. Katrina congratulates Lestia for her coming of age, and they talk about their dances during their own ceremonies. Katrina seems delighted to know Gerard remembers their dance, but she clarified she's getting married now that her magic eyes are exhausted. Katrina assures Lestia they weren't in a relationship. She also never confirmed whether they had mutual feelings through her magic eyes. Saddened, Lestia thinks she can help, as her own magic activates. Lestia finds her brothers waiting when she returns home. The Empress's invitation letter to the salon has arrived. They remind her their name is big enough to refuse, and she agrees. Soon, however, Lestia receives harrowing news about Angela. Angela's mother reveals Angela is not able to refuse Her Majesty's salon and had been taken prisoner for she had brought an unidentified magic object, Lestia's brooch gift, and the Empress perceives it as a weapon for assassination. Naturally, the two are distraught. Angela's mother even more so because she's not allowed to see her. For Lestia, she knows her brooch isn't a weapon, and to make things right, she has to go to Her Majesty's palace. Meanwhile, the Empress knows she has a golden opportunity in her hands. With Lestia's magic stone brooch, she framed Angela, and she can also have Lestia imprisoned for practicing magic outside the Imperial family's approval. And with that, she suspects she can get to Lysion through Lestia. Soon enough, Lestia arrives at her palace, and though in a rush, she doesn't forget her manners, and immediately asks for Her Majesty's evaluation that Lestia herself can make magic stones. However, the Empress changes her charge of accusing Lestia as the mastermind of an assassination attempt to unlawfully practicing magic. Fortunately, Lysion arrives to side with Lestia. Her Majesty doesn't give up and tries to pin Lysion too, but Lysion reveals he's been granted authority over the Imperial family's magic division. Since he claims Lestia is with him, her making magic stones is within regulation, so he takes Lestia away from her. But the Empress explodes in anger and threatens to include the Emperor himself. As soon as her guards move towards the two, Lysion flicks his hands and stones erupt to block them. His glare looks as if it could kill. He dares the guards approaching if they have a death wish. After rescuing Angela, Lestia can't help but pace back and forth, thinking of her state. Lysion takes good care to comfort her, and the two start talking. Awkwardly, at first, mind you. He apologizes to Lestia mainly for arriving at the palace while she's there. Lestia takes this as him working on his manners like she bid him to, which makes her happy. However, she's curious as to how he knew she's at the palace since she didn't even tell her brothers. This puts Lysion in a tough spot. Apparently, he's been spying on her ever since her arrival at the capital. Even her dress made by Lisa has magic stones to keep track of her. Knowing he can't admit it, he stalls for an answer. But he didn't have a chance to because Lestia's brothers burst into the room. Even Lestia can tell Lysion's changed demeanor. He's a man with too much power. Presumptive heir to the Empire, vast and mysterious magic power, with swordsmanship like the Onredris family to boot. Anyway, Matthias angrily condemns Angelina's imprisonment, noting her frail body. When informed she'll be alright after some rest, he declares he'll calm down after seeing her and goes to her directly. Even Lysion got curious about Matthias's behavior. Wait, could it be he's in love with Angela? Oh my god! But to the situation at hand, Lysion confirms to Joel that the Empress still remains unaware of Lestia's true abilities. Joel tries to ask Lestia to leave while they discuss these matters, but she refuses, saying she's an adult too. They also mention that Lysion's lie of Lestia working for him freed her, so Lysion asks Lestia to the palace, not as a Verchester, but as someone associated with him. Meanwhile, the Empress goes to see the Emperor. Her Majesty finds the Emperor in his smoky room, and she confirms whether the news of Lysion getting control of the magic division is true. The Emperor says it's the truth, and the Empress immediately questions his decision of not giving it to his son, Erikchen. The Emperor asks what qualities are beholden to the Crown Prince except being his son. Her Majesty argues she's enough for his son's misgiving and accuses Lysion of collaborating with the Verchesters. But the Emperor laughs and gives praise to Lysion for this. Shunned, Her Majesty retreats to her office where she knows if this goes on, she and Erikchen will lose their royal positions. Suddenly, her thoughts turn to assassinating the Emperor. The following day, Lysion makes good on his promise to send for a carriage for Lestia. She arrives, and though informed that Lysion's still sleeping, he still appears to welcome her. Though with sunken, tired eyes. Lysion informs her she can do anything she wants now she's there, be it reading, swordsmanship, or even go boating on the big pond he got for her. All he wants is to have lunch together. However, Lestia asks if he's having trouble sleeping. Lysion's hesitant to admit, thinking only Gerard and his closest aides should know, but in the face of Lestia's stern care, he relents. They go sit, and Lestia asks for Lysion's hands so she could analyze his mana. He does so, but with a romantic gesture, making Lestia lose focus for a bit. While chanting, Lysion observes Lestia's quick to trust him, wondering if it's because she sees him as a Verchester. In anticipation of analyzing Lysion's mana, Lestia reminisces on how others make her feel. Her brother feels as if walking through a sunny forest. Rookbest feels as if in a giant scale, and Galarian mana is reminiscent of sweet cotton candy. Meanwhile, Lysion can't help but admire Lestia's beauty when tears suddenly burst from her eyes. She hugs him, questioning how he could carry such chaotic and forlorn mana. Knowing what he's been through makes Lestia sad. Poor Lysion can only apologize while comforting Lestia, saying it isn't his intention to make her sad, so he suggests they stop. However, Lestia, still adamant to help, promises she can craft a magic stone suited just for Lysion. Happy, but not letting Lestia see it, Lysion notes how she always makes offers he can't refuse. Really, he's ecstatic he's getting one from Lestia. Afterwards, while Lestia is blushing because of Lysion on her carriage ride home, she gets intercepted by Knight on Regis. Sir Satan has been trying to contact her to warn Lestia not to visit the palace because Her Majesty's plotting something. Initially hesitant, Lestia comes to accept his warning when he reveals it's his way for atoning the past. The next day, Lysion wakes up vexed because Satan had approached Lestia despite his warnings. But really, he's amazed he's had a good night's sleep. Although with nightmares, he theorizes it's because he and Lestia held hands. Lestia again visits, even though Lysion informs her she doesn't have to. Lestia reveals Satan's warnings about Her Majesty, and Lysion notes how she's finally set a date for her plans. In the meantime, he also bids Lestia to not visit yet, though if she's worried, she could analyze his mana while holding hands again. Lestia's curious as to why Lysion wants to have the mana analysis, when that's simply that. However, she can't say no to his whimpering cute face, so she agrees. But this time, she asks that they do it somewhere else than the sitting room, and Lysion teases her for realizing men and women shouldn't be in a room together. So they go boating in the big pond at the Imperial Garden, much to Lestia's surprise. They finally begin, but this time, Lysion holds only one of Lestia's hands. He keeps the other one free to remove leaves that fall on her head. The procedure got done in an instant, however, and not to Lysion's satisfaction, so he thinks of a way to hold Lestia closely again. Suddenly, the boat starts rocking, causing Lestia to lose balance and cling to Lysion. She eventually realizes it's Lysion that made the waves rocky. Oh, Lysion's slick, ain't he? Now, thoughts on whether Lysion has feelings for her circle Lestia's head, though she downplays it. Until she can no longer because in the next moment, Lysion professes his love for her, asking Lestia to be his lover. Lestia notes he's already a special someone, though she can't be the lover of someone as great as the Grand Duke. That's when Lysion reveals everything he's ever done after leaving the Verchesters is for her to be happy. He credits her for giving him ambition, and if his titles get in the way, he'll abandon them for her. Of course, Lestia bids him not to, so again taking her hand, Lysion asks to let him have her. Let him have everything. Still in each other's embrace, Lysion asks if Lestia truly meant saying he's someone special to her. Finally, while caressing each other, Lestia can't deny her feelings and agrees to be his lover. Although she still calls him a bad man. Amused at Lestia's teasing, Lysion promises to stop as of now. Both agree their first kiss is better saved for last. Afterwards, Lestia's brothers observe her wearing a scarf, which is out of character for her since Lestia doesn't like wearing accessories. They all question her about it, and Gerard correctly surmises she's been wearing it since seeing Lysion. So Joel advises Lestia on the maliciousness of men, saying she should refuse or burn gifts that Lysion insists upon her. However, Lestia's had enough, and through a little outburst, she reveals she and Lysion are lovers. The brothers, though shocked, seem to take it well. Lestia is of age, after all. However, before they can comment on it further, an urgent letter from the Imperial Palace suddenly arrives. Upon reading it, Gerard steals his expression and informs his brothers they have to visit the palace immediately. Lestia can't help but remember Seitan's warning. Meanwhile, Lysion becomes aware of this too and learns of Seitan's disappearance. He theorizes it's because he leaked information to help Lestia. Despite his dislike of him, Lysion knows Seitan's trustworthiness, and he was asked to look after him by his mother's sword instructor before. These thoughts circle the Grand Duke's head while out commuting. Suddenly, he and his men observe a strange man with black smoke emitting from him. It's a ghoul, out to infect others, and they're coming from the Imperial Palace. Interestingly, Lysion observes Erichen's behavior as that of a ghoul during his last public appearance. The Imperial Knights are being overwhelmed by the ghoul's attack. Fortunately, Lysion arrives in time to set the ghouls ablaze with his magic. There he learns that Her Majesty has retreated to where the Emperor is. Knowing that the Empress has employed mercenaries, Lysion fears for the Emperor and decides to go to him. When warned that the palace is swarmed with ghouls, Lysion shows no fear, saying he's fine while brandishing his fire magic. Lysion arrives at the palace but faces a barrier that absorbs his magic, so he uses his sword to slice through the barrier. Right as he's about to enter with his men, voices call out to him. The Verchester brothers have arrived. Lysion is impressed by their quick arrival. Apparently, he's the one who sent the letter to inform them of the situation. However, the brothers are displeased with Lysion, who correctly surmises it's because they found out about him and Lestia through her scarf. Though cocky because of that, he and the brothers mutually agree to handle the situation first before talking about Lestia. Meanwhile, Her Majesty finally confronts the Emperor. She tells him no reinforcements will come, and that Erichen, a ghoul who can't die, has taken care of his guards. The Emperor contradicts Her Majesty's claim that the Crown Prince is perfect, calling him horrific. But Her Majesty counters that the Emperor isn't about horrid acts when he was young, claiming the Crown Princess would think little of him were she alive. Finally, she has the Emperor assassinated. Right as she smirks at her victory, Lysion and the Verchester brothers arrive to confront Her Majesty. Immediately, Her Majesty orders Erichen to attack Lysion and the Verchester brothers, but they come prepared to fight. They burst forth magical elements to hinder and trap Erichen. However, the Empress sees this as her chance and envelops the air with her mana enhancers, attempting to take control of the brothers. Fortunately, they are protected by Lestia's new magic stones. Now defeated and without a weapon, Her Majesty falls to her knees. The men observe Erichen still trying to breathe despite being trapped in water. They figure he's immortal now. The Empress laughs, confirming that Erichen will forever be a present member of the royal family, so she'll have her chance. Lysion berates the woman's horrid attempt to gain power, so the Empress likens him to Princess Roxanne. Lysion's quick to cut her off. He does believe in his mother, but he's also determined to emerge victorious. Suddenly, he remembers Seitan and asks for his whereabouts. Her Majesty's ominous reply is that she gave him a chance to redeem himself. Lysion knows she means harming Lestia, so he rushes to her after learning where she was. While the brothers wonder where the Grand Duke, no, the future Emperor, is off to. Back at the Verchester estate, Lestia is horrified that Seitan is attacking her. Although conscious in speaking, it seems his actions aren't his own. Suddenly, Seitan manages to grab Lestia, and she sees him wearing a mana enhancer. Fortunately, Lysion arrives in time to save Lestia. Although aware Seitan is controlled, he fights him nonetheless because he harmed Lestia. During the fight, he also affirms his displeasure of the Anridris Knights. Despite struggling, Seitan remembers Her Majesty's order to kill Lestia no matter what. The Mana Enhancer charges as Seitan dashes with his magic sword. Lysion knows ordinary swords won't work on an Anridrius magic sword, so he uses a magic-imbued sword. He demonstrates a perfect strategy that parries away Seitan's sword and knocks him down. Finally, Lysion prepares the finishing blow, but Lestia blocks him. She pleads for Lysion to calm down, but he argues that the Anridris killed his family and almost took Lestia too, so he's nowhere near calm. Regardless, Lestia begs for Seitan's life, arguing he's innocent. Lysion eventually relents, though he leaves a little hurt that Lestia used her promise to beat him in a sword fight to save Seitan. Fortunately, Lestia hugs him tightly and makes him aware what he said was hurtful. He apologizes also for seemingly forcing Lestia to a relationship, but Lestia corrects him, saying she's always been in love with him. The two reaffirm their love by Lestia giving Lysion a ring. Soon, the Verchester attendants regain consciousness. It's through Lestia's magic stones that they were protected. Curious, Lysion asks why Lestia crafts magic stones as flowers. Lestia explains that her preference for shaping magic stones into flowers comes from giving Lysion paper flowers back then. Seeing how it made everyone happy became her inspiration. He kept the paper flower all this time, by the way. Lysion gives Lestia a kiss on the forehead as Matthias and Joel burst into the room. They aren't all too happy about the two being lovers, with Matthias guilty of unknowingly helping Lestia pick Lysion's ring, and Joel adamant Lysion's the type of guy to seduce women. They can't do anything about Lysion's teasing, though, because Lestia's protective of him. In any case, Lysion returns to his Imperial post to clean up Her Majesty's mess. He is overly joyous because of Lestia's ring, though, something Gerard chastises him for as they have other duties. First, the Emperor's funeral is being held. Lysion observes his predecessor on his deathbed. He remembers him as the man who ignored his mother's day and allowed inhumane experiments on his father. Lysion promises to rule the Morcatium Empire differently. Although the funeral was cut to 5 days due to the ghoul attack, there was plenty of time to proclaim Lysion as the throne's successor. He then visits Her Majesty in prison, who muses if he's come to kill her. The Empress haughtily provokes Lysion, claiming that he's also a hypocrite who kills people in order to attain the throne. However, he explains that he's not here to exact revenge, and goes on to say that what he has experienced is no less painful than a parent losing a child. Instantly, the Lenante couple appears behind Lysion, asking the Empress if she remembers their son, Shannon, who was a victim of the Empress. Lysion then notes that the couple is willing to exchange their lives just to torture her. Apparently, the Lalante family uses healing magic in exchange for their lives, implying that they'll sacrifice themselves just to endlessly torment the Empress. Realizing what this means, she begs to be killed immediately. However, this is futile. She is then sent to the wilderness where she will be tortured. The day after, the Empress disappears without a trace. Shortly after, Lysion is now with Gerard, and before them is the Crown Prince, who is the perpetrator of Gerard's father's death. Lysion then asks what his plan is for the prince, to which Gerard responds that everyone who crosses the Verchesters will get what they deserve. Without delay, Lysion sets the Crown Prince ablaze, leaving nothing but ashes. Afterward, Gerard hopes that everything is over. Elsewhere, Lestia wonders when she can see Lysion again, but little does she know that shortly after she ponders this, Lysion appears on the balcony terrace. Surprised, she wonders why he didn't use the front door, to which he explains that if he had, her brothers would have interfered. Lysion rests on Lestia's shoulders, expressing how exhausted he is, which worries her. She then offers to have his back whenever he's tired, to which he takes advantage and asks if he's allowed to sleep in her room for a bit. Upon hearing this, she immediately retracts, unsure of what she heard. Seeing that he is saddened by her sudden retreat, she gives in and decides to let him in. Later, Lestia wonders if Lysion is just going to sleep on the sofa, to which he notes that he has to, or else he doesn't know what he would do if he slept on her bed. He then goes on to tease her, saying that perhaps she wants them to sleep together. Lestia gets flushed and annoyed upon hearing this, claiming that she was just concerned about him and now he's teasing her. He then ignores what she's saying and offers to turn off the lights so he can get better sleep. After turning off the lights, Lysion once again teases her and asks if she wants to come sit beside him. Seeing that she's reluctant, he decides to summon iridescent butterflies, which excites her. Lestia is reminded of the time when Lysion always summoned bright butterflies whenever she was afraid of the dark. He then grabs her by the waist and carries her to her bed. She asks why he makes butterfly shapes with his flame powers. He replies that when he was young, he was never allowed to go out, so this was the only way he could see them up close. The two then continue to warmly talk throughout the night, until Lestia eventually falls asleep. Lysion finds this funny, noting that he was the one who wanted to rest in the first place. Shortly after, he makes Lestia lie in her bed and kisses her goodnight before promptly leaving. Lestia wakes up, wondering if what happened last night actually happened, but after a quick thought, she doesn't think so. Later, she meets her brothers at the dining table who are happy to see her, but soon after she sits down, Gerard wishes to talk to her about their father. After a short discussion among the brothers, they decide that it's finally time to tell her the truth about their father, something that Lestia was always curious about but couldn't bring herself to probe. Gerard then tells her the story, beginning with the Crown Prince's conspiracy, which ended in nothing but his ashes. After hearing the story, all Lestia can express is her gratitude for her brother's hard work. She knows that they hid all of these things just to protect her and to give her a better life. Gerard then asks Lestia if she wants to hear more, especially about her mother, but she declines, saying that she's happy with what she has, especially her 3 brothers. Upon hearing this, the brothers can't help but praise their sister's growth. Now that it has come to this, Lestia is even more determined to face life. Suddenly, Haylock arrives, announcing to everyone that the supposedly dead Lysion is at the front door, which is met with giggles from Lestia and the brothers. Haylock continues, explaining that Lysion is with his carriage full of gifts, making the brothers wonder if he's finally here to ask them for permission for his engagement to Lestia. Matthias and Joel are now worried that Lestia is finally going to be married off. Gerard then asks how long she's been in love with Lysion, to which she responds that she has liked him for a long time. Gerard then expresses his regret for letting Lestia and Lysion get close as kids. He continues to share his sentiments, asking Lestia if she knows what it means to be married to a soon-to-be emperor. Stunned, Lestia waits for her brothers to continue. He tells her that becoming the empress means facing a lot of danger and responsibility, which she wasn't trained for because she was raised in a greenhouse. Because of this, Gerard does not approve of the marriage. Matthias and Joel try their best to vouch for Lestia, but it is futile since Gerard has already made up his mind. After dismissing Lestia's words, he orders her to return to her room. Gerard then meets with Lysion alone and asks about his intentions. Lysion replies that he wants to see his lover as well as the brothers. Gerard reminds Lysion of the request they made to the imperial family in exchange for their support, that they want to disobey them at least once. He brings this up because he wants to make use of it now. Angered, Lysion asks if Gerard thinks he's such a pathetic man. Gerard explains that this is not the case. Rather, Lysion's affiliations with other houses would pose a threat to Lestia's safety. Lysion strongly disagrees, claiming that Lestia is strong and that everything she has up until now is because of her love, which should not be taken lightly. Gerard refuses to acknowledge Lysion's words and warns him that they will be stricter in protecting Lestia, so he won't be able to visit her secretly. Lysion agrees to his demands, but proposes a bet. If Lestia can sway Gerard, then he will have to listen to her. Gerard agrees, doubting he will ever be swayed. Meanwhile, Lestia is clearly troubled, wondering if she's actually good enough for Lysion. Joel tries to console Lestia, while Matthias informs her that Lysion was sent home safely and that no fight occurred between him and Gerard. Relieved, Lestia tells her brothers that she needs rest. After her brothers leave, she is left alone with nothing but her thoughts, which make her feel even more miserable as she begins to loathe herself. The following day, Matthias and Joel confront Gerard about his decision because Lestia has not been eating properly ever since his declaration. However, Gerard remains firm in his decision, making Matthias wonder if he even cares at all. Meanwhile, Lestia is still disheartened by what happened when Angela shortly enters her room. Lestia is elated to see that Angela is now able to walk once again. But this happiness is short-lived as Lestia is once again struck with sadness. Angela wonders why, and Lestia tells her everything that happened. After listening, Angela reassures her that she has nothing to worry about and reminds her of the prophecy she told her, that Lysion will be hers. Seeing that Lestia is still skeptical, Angela continues to reassure her, saying that she doesn't need to worry and should have faith in her prophecies. Shortly after, Lestia's smile returns, now determined to work hard. Seeing this, Angela is delighted. After their brief celebration, Lestia asks if Angela is feeling anything strange due to mishaps with the mana neutralization stone. Angela shares that there is nothing unusual, except that she dreamed of her and Matthias dancing in a grand ballroom. Hearing this reminds Lestia of how her eyes were when she was young, and she proceeds to tell Angela that she has nothing to worry about. Gerard asks Haylock how Lestia is doing, to which he responds that she's doing better than ever. This makes Gerard complacently happy, thinking that Lestia has finally realized what's more important. Shortly after, Lestia shows up, intending to talk about the situation. Though she acknowledges her brother's concern, she firmly decides that she won't give up on Lycion. Disappointed, Gerard once again reminds her of the consequences of being with Lycion. Though she recognizes this, she still thinks that it doesn't justify giving up. Having had enough of this, Gerard stands up and bluntly tells her that she's weak, and because of that, she'll surely meet her demise if she chooses this path. Lestia agrees, but claims she is not powerless and that she is able to protect herself. She then goes on to say that she doesn't need his blessing now, but she'll slowly prove it to him. This prompts Gerard to remember his bet with Lycion. Gerard acquiesces, asking her what her plan is, to which she summons Dora, bringing a letter. Lestia explains that she will make Katrina, someone who's capable of discerning the truth, her closest aide. Gerard thinks this is pointless because Katrina can no longer use her powers. Lestia disagrees, saying that with a mana neutralization stone, Katrina will be able to see again and won't be forced to marry someone. Hearing this prompts Gerard to recall a bitter memory. She then gives him the letter from Katrina about her wedding. She asks him to deliver the mana neutralization stone to Katrina. Meanwhile, at her wedding, Katrina ponders about Gerard. Now we're in for a flashback. At the Imperial Academy entrance ceremony, young Katrina and her friend admire the amazing Duke of Verchester as he gives his speech. Apparently, he's the talk of the masses, but this doesn't bode well since he's going to attract the infamous Erichin. A few days later, Katrina's servant informs her that she's being summoned again by Erichin, and she suspects he's going to use her again to bully someone. If she doesn't answer his summons, a lot of people will be affected, so having no other choice, she decides to show up. As she enters the room, she witnesses an unprecedented scene where Erichin confronts Gerard, who remains unbothered and unimpressed by him. Acknowledging Katrina's presence, Erichin quickly calls her attention and commands her to use her powers on Gerard. But it seems they have no effect, greatly upsetting Erichin and prompting him to hit her. Just as he's about to land a blow, Gerard steps in, challenging him to a duel instead, which causes Erichin to retreat. Katrina then expresses her gratitude, offering her powers as payment. However, Gerard tells her that he's not interested because once he firmly believes in something, he doesn't care if it's a lie or not. He then advises her not to use her powers on trivial things, touching her, because those are the kindest words she has ever heard. Ever since that day, Katrina began her obsession and clung to him. A few years later, Gerard finally has a request pertaining to the authenticity of his father's will, afterward asking if she needs something in return. Katrina tells him that she just wants a kiss. Gerard agrees to Katrina's request, to which she notes that every time he needs her powers, that's all she asks for as payment. At present, Katrina recalls how stupid she was to have asked how he felt about her. Shortly after, Gerard barges into her dressing room, which makes her upset. He retorts by saying this is how she always barges into his room before. Wow, talk about a wholesome reunion! Upon closer observation, Gerard regrets not having enough time to see Katrina like this, beautifully dressed. But now Katrina seems to loathe him, even asking him to leave. This is not the image he remembers of her. Gerard then informs her about the content of the letter he sent to Lestia, about her missing him. She admits that she really liked him, but now she's given up because she's tired of clinging to him and feels useless since her powers are lost. She tells him to leave, but she loses her balance. Luckily, Gerard catches her, which only makes Katrina uncomfortable. He finally tells her not to go through with the wedding since he likes her as well, but she thinks he's just lying. He then tells her to use her powers to find out if he's truly lying or not, as he attaches the bracelet to her. She then begins to use her powers on him. Gerard tells Katrina that Lestia made the mana neutralization bracelet for her. He then proceeds to ask her to look at him to confirm whether how he feels about her is really true. Seeing that it actually is true, she can't help but cry. She then asks if she can kiss him, to which he responds that she doesn't need permission anymore, and then they passionately share a kiss. 4 days later, Haylock informs Lestia and the brothers that Gerard won't be back for a while, making Lestia uneasy because she wants to be acknowledged as soon as possible so that she can be with Lycion. Matthias and Joel then attempt to ask their dear sister to hang out, but they are interrupted when Satan, a knight from the Enridrus family, arrives. She reassures them, saying it's probably because she also sent him a mana neutralization stone. Hearing this, the brothers are confused as to why she would give it to someone who tried to kill her, to which she responds that she just wants to use her powers to help those in need. Shortly after, Seitan expresses his gratitude, noting that he'll probably never visit again and would likely just send her a letter if he needs something. Puzzled, Lestia asks why, to which he responds that Lysion probably wouldn't like him visiting her alone. She then asks how Lysion is doing, and Seitan informs her that he's resting after his collapse. Surprised by this news, she decides to promptly visit the Imperial Palace, realizing that everyone knew about Lysion's condition except her. Before Lestia could enter the carriage, Gerard showed up, asking where she was headed. Lestia then told him that she didn't need his permission now. She was going regardless. She asks Seitan to hold her brother's back as she headed to the Imperial Palace. Although reluctant, Seitan prepared for battle. Seeing that she was willing to go this far, the twins tried to tell Gerard to just let her go. After careful thought, Gerard finally realized that perhaps this was the right time for him to finally acknowledge Lestia. After all, he wouldn't have made it up with Katrina if it weren't for her. Gerard then let her go and expressed his recognition toward her, greatly pleasing Lestia. Meanwhile, Lysion was having a terrible nightmare, but fortunately, he was woken up by Lestia. He was in disbelief at what he saw, asking her to leave because he didn't want her to see him like this, vulnerable. She then gave him a ring, calming him down. This prompted him to ask if it was a rose, to which she denied, explaining that it was actually a Lysianthus. Lysion then told her that Lysianthus was actually the name of his father. He explained that his father's name was given by Lysion's mother since his father was an orphan. That's also where Lysion's name came from. He then joked about his mother's bad taste for naming him and his father after a flower. This made Lestia delighted because the meaning behind the Lysianthus flower is unchanging love, meaning that his mother has unchanging love for both him and his father. Though Lysion's dreams perceived her as cold, his earlier memories said otherwise. They showed a warm and happy family. Lestia tells Lysion that he's the warmest and sweetest person she knows, which he finds hard to believe because of his nightmares about his parents. His parents still haunt him, especially their last moments. She then reassures him that the people in his dreams aren't real. She realizes that Lysion's wounds run deep, which makes her even more determined to help him, just as her brothers helped her. She then tells him that she'll stay by his side regardless of the depth of his wounds, marking her feelings for him. Hearing this, he teases her, especially about the ring. After teasing each other for a while, Lysion takes this moment as an opportunity to ask Lestia to marry him. Lestia smiles, noting that he's the only one she has ever wanted. Lysion hugs her tightly and worriedly asks if she would still agree if her brothers were against it. Lestia then points out the obvious, hinting that her feelings have finally been acknowledged by Gerard. Hearing this, Lysion can't help but utter the words, "I love you." And of course, Lestia reciprocates. The two then share a passionate kiss as the night concludes. Lysion then tells Lestia that she should go home, but she refuses, explaining that she needs to see if the ring really works since it's incomplete. Lysion then kisses her because of her boldness. He then suggests that she stop addressing him formally since they're engaged. She still clearly struggles, but Lysion continues to kiss her until she learns how to address him intimately. The following day, Lestia wakes up beside Lysion and he immediately teases her. Afterward, she asks how he's feeling, to which he assures her that he's fine. She then tells him that she wishes to bathe first before they eat, and he asks if they can do it together. Flustered, she pushes him away and swiftly heads to the bath. Soon after bathing, she then eats with Lysion. The two enjoy their time feeding each other. Meanwhile, in front of the Imperial Palace, Seitan is in quite a predicament. Before him stand the three brothers, furious that their dear sister hasn't come home yet. Seitan silently complains about not having enough sleep because of Lestia's request. Now, before him stand the three brothers who are obviously furious that their sister hasn't come home yet. He then tells them that they need to ask for an audience with Lysion. Of course, they're not amused hearing this. Meanwhile, Lestia senses her brother's mana. They then decide to greet her brothers. Shortly after, the doors open, prompting Matthias to grab Lysion by the collar for his audacity in enticing his sister. Lestia stops Matthias, noting that she'll be upset if he continues to blame Lysion. Witnessing this unfold, Matthias can't help but feel defeated. Lysion then declares to everyone that he'll make Lestia his wife. Joel wonders if Gerard would ever allow that. Lysion then reminds Gerard about the bet, making Lestia wonder what they're talking about. They explain it to her, which excites her, knowing that Gerard has to follow through. Indeed, he gives his blessing. She then tries to convince Matthias, which seems to be working well, but Joel reminds her that she can't just spend the night away before their wedding. Matthias also tells her that if Lysion ever does something to her, she should tell him. Seitan wonders if Lestia even needs his protection after all, since they seem to be getting along fine. On the day of Lysion's coronation as the new emperor of the Morcatium Empire, he swears that the empire will be different. He vows not to repeat the mistakes of his predecessors, prioritizing the safety of the empire at all costs. At the grand ball following the coronation, Lestia sees her brothers overjoyed. Gerard is happy with Katrina. Joel is as popular as ever, and Matthias is dancing with Angela, who no longer needs her cane. Shortly after, Lysion arrives and tells her that it's okay to be casual with him, despite his new status as emperor. He then asks her for a dance, which once again draws unwanted gazes and the attention of all the guests. But this time, she's no longer worried. She has learned a lot from all the people she's been with and from the experiences she has gained. She just knows it's different now. In the midst of the ballroom, the two dance gracefully, drawing all eyes to their elegant movements. Though it is difficult for Lestia, given her anxiety and uncertainty about her feelings with Lysion, as well as his complicated relationship with her brothers, Princess's dangerous brother shows that anything can be attained as long as you persevere. I hope you all enjoyed this story as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. As always, thank you for your support, everyone, and see you in my next video!